Welcome on in, everybody, to the Central Committee stream with your host, Mike from PA. We are live once again. Good morning. Wow. Did you guys, I made a video about Greenland, and it's coming true. Go on over to my channel. Trump will likely take Greenland 5 days ago. Kind of seems like everything I said is coming true. Okay, I don't like this title, chat, on this video. Canada bends the knee to China. I don't like this. I don't like this title. It really shouldn't. I know we were fucking with the Canadians here, but that's not really the substance of my analysis. And I don't actually think this is bad. This is a bad title. It's a bad title. I'm sorry. I'll change it. Like, you gotta face those editorial calls faster. I know, I did, but I told the wrong person. How do I explain it? I'll explain it to you, chat, real quick. Basically, people are highly emotional animals, and you have to understand, if you want to be successful, you need to understand the emotional tenor of the people that you're talking to. And whenever you make a video, you need to be thinking, who is my audience, right? What am I trying to do here? That's good clickbait? No, it's not. Actually, it's the opposite. I wouldn't be surprised if I actually lost subscribers from that video, to be honest with you. Yeah. No, that's not how you do that. Anyway, this is the famous old pipe boss Mike. Thank you. So that's a shame. That's a pretty important video. That's a shame. We will move on to the next one. Anyway, 500K on your video on Billy. I really need to make more videos just for China, honestly. I really do. I want Canada here. I was going to sub, but I'm having second thoughts. Funnily enough, okay. The substance of that video is actually Canada is not bending the knee. They're standing up to the United States. Like, that's the substance of the video. The video is, holy shit, Canada is realizing that they need to have some plausible separation from the US if they're going to maintain their sovereignty. It's the opposite of bending the knee. They're actually doing something really based, which is standing up to the US. Now, I made fun of Canadians because I'm trying to prod them into supporting that. Right? I was making fun of them in the context of my stream, which is different than a title. Right? The title of a video now makes me seem like an asshole because I'm laughing at Canada for doing the right thing, for being correct. No, that's not how you do that. That's not what I was trying to do. So it's kind of like the opposite of what I'm trying to do and doing, and it sucks is what I'm trying to say. Canada snubs US for China is a far better title, yes. Your editors need better clickbait. Titles are always so dry, my opinion. They're not. No, I disagree. I think they're getting better. Listen, I am somebody who's been doing it for a long time, and I have some talent for it, but I just do it on my stream, right? I understand the difference between streaming and posting videos. So that's it's important to understand the difference between the two. But it's okay. It's okay. It's my fault, honestly. Everything is always my fault. So what you're saying is no more Canada slander? No. You need to slander Canada, but in the right way. Chat, prohibited from reprinting without author's authorization? Excuse me, sir? This has 11,000 likes. So actually, you know what, chat? I'm just going to take some time here. I'm going to edit the title myself. I'm going to put a new title in because I'm actually getting irritated and I have the solution. So I'm just going to do it. The Danish Fed posting freak who came in here telling people to off Trump yesterday was crying in Hassan's chat later about his ban. I mean, you follow me for 30 minutes and then say Fed posting shit, you're going to get banned. You think Canadians should generally be worried? All right, I woke up on the wrong side of the bed today, chat. I woke up on the wrong side of the bed. Hold on, let me drink some water, dude. You know what? I'm going to get some Advil. I'll be right back. Okay, the video didn't play. What the fuck?
Troops arriving in Greenland. The Danish military just posting these images that we're showing you of troops arriving in Greenland. Looks like already in darkness tonight. And it comes as our Jim Sciutto is now reporting that President Trump said on a call with the British Prime Minister that he may have been given, quote, bad information on why European troops were sent to Greenland. Now, Jim's reporting is according to a senior British official. The deployments of troops, though, we just showed you those latest images, but they also come from Germany, Sweden, France, Norway, the Netherlands, and Finland, a massive NATO statement, all on the heels of Trump's threats to, quote, have Greenland one way or the other. Trump threatening those countries militarily. They are, of course, all America's strongest allies, and also specifically threatening them, in addition to military, with hefty tariffs for their military show of force against his taking over Greenland. So if Trump was confused as to their motive or what they were saying, he certainly didn't wait to clarify the confusion. He immediately, had said he was going to impose 10% tariffs on those NATO allies, ramping it up to 25%. Now, based on what may be bad information, or is it a convenient excuse for an off-ramp to a situation that is troubling, terrifying, and spiraling, escalating, because the text messages between the President of the United States and the Norwegian Prime Minister are unlike anything we've ever seen, frankly, from a President of the United States in any capacity, never mind between him and an ally. The Prime Minister of Norway, Jonas Gahr Støre, texting Trump yesterday afternoon, "Dear Mr. President, dear Donald, on the contact across the Atlantic, on Greenland, Gaza, Ukraine, and your tariff announcement yesterday, you know our position on these issues, but we believe we should all work to take this down and de-escalate. So much is happening around us where we need to stand together. We are proposing a call with you later today, with both of us or separately. Give us a hint of what you prefer. Best, Alex S. Personal, a text, obviously an attempt at de-escalation, a handshaking, trying to move past this. We should all work together. Give us a hint of what you prefer. Best? Well, a little less than an hour later, Trump responded. And as unfortunately the whole world is now well aware, it was not in kind. Writes, "Dear Jonas, considering your country decided not to give me the Nobel Peace Prize for having stopped 8 wars plus, I no longer feel an obligation to think purely of peace." He continues to say, although it will always be predominant, but can now think about what is good and proper for the United States of America. Denmark cannot protect that land from Russia or China. And why do they have a right of ownership anyway? There are no written documents. It's only that a boat landed there hundreds of years ago. But we had boats landing there also. I have done more for NATO than any other person since its founding. And now NATO should do something for the United States. The world is not secure unless we have complete and total control of Greenland. Thank you, President DJT. And as you could see there, all of the random capitalizations are as he wrote it. We are now learning that that message was then forwarded by the President's National Security Council. So people went and did this for him to multiple European ambassadors so they could understand this. Official screed from the President of the United States. Now, officials telling CNN that European diplomats are comparing Trump to Putin. And as for Putin, perhaps he never even dreamed of such an incredible moment. Just look at how Russia's state television is reacting to Trump pushing the NATO alliance to the brink over Greenland. This was uncovered by journalist Julia Davis.
Americans are delivering a catastrophic blow to NATO, because one country that is a member of NATO is taking away the territory that rightfully belongs to a country that is also a member of NATO.
I think this benefits us.
I mean, I guess he's stating a fact. Yet Trump does seem intent on getting Greenland. He is now tying that to not winning the Nobel Peace Prize. I mean, the entire beginning of that text, right, was because I didn't win the Nobel Peace Prize. And that prize, as bizarre as this is now something we have to keep talking about because Trump has been obsessed with it. In fact, if you go all the way back to when former President Obama won it back in 2009, we can find this trail.
This guy got the Nobel Peace Prize, and every time I look, he's going into another country.
He got the Nobel Peace Prize. Okay, think of it. He got the Nobel Peace Prize.
But Norman got the Nobel Peace Prize.
He said, I have nominated you, or respectfully on behalf of Japan, I am asking them to give you the Nobel Peace Prize. I said, thank you.
I'm going to tell you about the Nobel Peace Prize.
All right, Jim Sciutto begins our coverage out front because, Jim, I know you have some brand new reporting here. What are you learning from your sources?
I'm told by a senior UK official that during their phone call on Sunday between Trump and the UK Prime Minister Keir Starmer, that President Trump conceded to Starmer that he may have been given bad information about that increased deployment of European troops to Greenland. What could that bad information be? Well, the intention of that deployment is to explore security needs for Greenland and perhaps to boost security for Greenland, in part to meet President Trump's demands. Did Trump interpret that deployment as instead a European defense against any U.S. involvement in Greenland? It's hard to know exactly what he misinterpreted there. I will say this, UK officials say that our Danish counterparts briefed the U.S. prior to that European deployment, and not only briefed them, because I'm told by a senior Danish official that those deployments were coordinated between Europe and the U.S. through their existing military channels. That said, the UK is seeing that small concession from President Trump to Starmer as at least a potential path to de-escalation. They're looking for hope here, Aaron. But one thing that has not changed, I'm told, by UK officials, Danish officials, and others, is that President Trump has indicated no desire or willingness to move off his demand that the U.S. take Greenland somehow, some way. And that remains a red line for European leaders.
Yeah, I mean, I guess if that's what he's saying and that's what they're saying, then where we are, still bumping up against a wall. All right, Jim, thank you very much with all that new reporting. And Jim has more reporting coming up at 9 p.m. on The Source. Don't miss that with Jim. And a lot to get to with our experts here. Okay, Seth Jones, let me just start with you because I know you've had a lot of conversations with European officials here in these past hours. What are they feeling about this?
Aaron, they're feeling exasperated. I had one senior official who advises a head of state in Europe say that they just cannot understand that the biggest threat from NATO is not coming now from the Russians, although that is serious, but now from the Americans within NATO. That NATO, which has a 1951 pact in place to allow the United States to put space-based assets in, air defense assets in to protect the U.S. homeland. Really the ability to protect U.S. national security assets. U.S. can do that with what is in place right now. So just exasperated that there is such a threat to the alliance right now from the U.S. for what most people do not fully understand the rationale, the strategic rationale for the president doing this.
Yeah, it's hard to find anyone who does when you lay it out like that. I mean, Dan, you're in Davos right now. Investors, CEOs, world leaders are there. Look, they're hearing Trump say, okay, we're going to put tariffs on our closest allies of 10%. We're going to ramp them up to 25%. And basically, unless the United States takes over Greenland. I mean, are people genuinely worried about this now?
Look, I could tell you, Aaron, I mean, it's definitely caused some white knuckles here at Davos because the worry in terms of the markets, okay, is this another, now we start going down the tariff route, is the bark going to be worse than the bite, which I ultimately believe it will be. But at a time that we're talking about U.S. ahead of China for the first time in 30 years when it comes to AI revolution and tech, this has been the conversation. I could tell you in the pavilions, at all the events that I've seen today, going into what's going to be this sort of, an old Western standoff that we're going to see, when Trump comes here.
All right. Anyway, Mike, this American aggression is actually undermining the European far right like it did in Canada. Yeah, of course it is. Look at what the Brits are posting. The U.S. is the enemy of Europe. I'm sorry, Chad. I'm trying to manage multiple things. I have like 5 fucking projects I'm doing, and I want to make more content. But this is what always happens, right? The moment you start being a success at anything, capitalism tries to make you into a fucking manager. It tries to pull you away from the thing you like doing, that you're providing value doing, into a manager. And it's like, no, I don't want to do this. I don't want to be a manager because it's wasting my time. But you have to do it because there's only so much you can do. And in order to be a good manager has to be a good teacher. Like that's the reality. And unfortunately, I'm not very good at that because I don't have a lot of patience. I'm not a very patient person. And so that's a big L for me. The problem is like, I get pissed off when people make mistakes and they don't know why they made them like that. So I'm not a good teacher. I'm not a good teacher because of that. Like, if you could say, like, okay, well, I did this because this, and I was thinking this, then I'm like, oh, okay, cool. Well, let's think like this, and let's do this. But if you're like, I don't know, I didn't really think about it, makes me want to, oh, I hate it so much. So, I'm not a good manager. I've become self-aware. That people do not experience the world the same as me. And
I don't know how
so I'm trying to wrap myself up in, like, some chains a little bit to chain my reactions. Mike doesn't have kids, LMAO. Exactly. It's about asking the right questions, which can be tough, especially the person is particularly dense person. I think I meet like 5 people a year who are not dense. You think the way you do because of the mistakes you've made. Oh, I couldn't agree more. I think part of it is personality. I think part of it was how I was raised. I think part of it was what I'm attracted to, what I find interesting, you know what I mean? So it's just very self-centered. I'm self-aware of that, right? Like, I understand that the way that I am thinking is not objectively correct. So I'm trying to work on that and be like, okay, people were patient with you in the past. You are not better than anyone. That's like actually one of my favorite insights that I live by is that I'm not better than anyone. That no one is really better than anyone in the kind of a sense of in kind. You know what I mean? It's not that we can't make distinguishments. It's not that we can't say so-and-so is a piece of shit, so-and-so is a good person. I just mean in their essence, right? People became good people because of their actions and because of the context in which they grew up and the people around them, and they were molded and shaped, and they also contributed their own personality and their own actions and their own decisions, and that amalgam becomes a good person. So nobody is like born an angel or born a devil. We become that through our behaviors and how we interact with other people. If I consider myself a good person, it's not only because of my own quality, but rather the people that were around me. So I try to remind myself of that. I want to be someone who is making people better, not being a piece of shit. Will this Trump shit hurt the Euro far right and help the liberals and not the left is my question. The answer to that question is, who resists Trump the best? Who satisfies the resistance to Trump? That's who's going to win. My father told me something when I was very small to instill confidence in me. Nobody in the world is worth more than you, but nobody's worth less. It is an egalitarian view that I've carried around in my life. That's why I'm for free schools, free universities, free childcare, free babysitting, because our society could afford it. In America, people think social democracy is some kind of communism. They think capitalism is freedom. It's not. It's only freedom to exploit people. Did you already talk about Trump's text messaging with Macron? No, we are going to get into that. Don't worry. Fight fire with fire. This is the question I have for the Europeans. Are you going to recognize that America is your enemy before it's too late? Are you?
Much coverage you've seen or read today of Donald Trump's ludicrous comments about the so-called Chagos Island deals. It's very unpopular with the usual sort of ignorant racists all over Twitter who don't understand anything or follow the facts or events. But you'd have thought on this occasion they might have actually double-checked what Donald Trump had to say about it at the time, or indeed what his Secretary of State, Marco Rubio, had to say about it all those many, many moons ago in... I don't like doing that, hashtag checks notes or whatever it is. But May of 2025, May the 22nd, 2025. So just lest you are confused about what is going on, Donald Trump has made his enmity towards Europe and the United Kingdom crystal clear. His designs upon sovereign European territory are now visible from space. You either abandon your pathetic, mealy-mouthed support for the man, or you erect ever more ludicrous facades of fraudulence and stupidity in order to mask your own sense of humiliation and shame at having backed such an obvious wrong-un, and of course having been so obnoxious and so rude to the people who were pointing out what was, to almost everybody honest, sensible and informed, blindingly obvious. So what he has done today is essentially hand weapons to useful idiots on this side of the Atlantic and say, please throw these at your own Prime Minister. Which means that the useful idiots on this side of the Atlantic throwing weapons at their own Prime Minister are latter-day Lord Haw-Haws. They are doing the bidding of a foreign leader who wishes us harm and ill. See it in the context of the United Kingdom, if you want, or see it in the context of Europe, which he has refused to rule out military force in the process of helping himself to land that he wants. So just because you might think that you're going mad, I will file this under
Missed information.
Thank you, Emily. This is May the 22nd, 2025, and I'm mentioning it because apparently I'm the only person capable of remembering. Today, the United States welcomed the historic agreement between the United Kingdom and the Republic of Mauritius on the future of the British Indian Ocean Territory, specifically the Chagos Archipelago. We commend both the United Kingdom and Mauritius for their leadership, vision, and commitment to ensure that Diego Garcia...
I can't believe Donald Trump is leaking texts. I can't believe Trump is like legitimately posting private messages.
Remains fully operational for the duration of the agreement. We look forward to working closely with both governments to strengthen our collaboration in support of regional peace and stability. Full stop. Signed, Marco Rubio, Secretary of State, Donald Trump's White House, May the 22nd, 2025. So why has he changed his course now? Answer: to get useful idiots to throw... By the way, chat, Stop Anti-Semitism is officially calling Kamala Harris an anti-Semite. This has been the funniest shit I've ever seen. This is the funniest shit I've ever seen. Is Kamala Harris is being called anti-Semitic, and now all the K-hivers have to be like, wait a minute, maybe Israel is going too far. All the people who were like, Mike's an anti-Semite, Mike's an anti-Semite, are having to go, wait a minute, they're calling Kamala Harris an anti-Semite? Dane here, I feel that a lot of the people are dissatisfied with the appeasement by our government. Hell yeah, brother. Here's what I would say. Here's what I need you to understand. Is that, okay, Europeans, 65% of Americans are chill. They're what you think of when you are like, yeah, I like America. America's all right. They're kind of stupid. They're kind of fat, but I like them. You know, that's 65% of Americans. They're not in control of anything. The most over-the-top stereotype, racist, evil, Nazi, KKK people are in charge. All right. And they're also evil as fuck. And they don't care that you think you're white. OK, they're going to steal your shit. All right. They abuse white people in this. They abuse white Americans. You think they care about white Danes? White supremacy is not actually a thing that they care about. They don't care about white racial identity or solidarity. It's an op so the rich can have more power. If you fell for it, sorry, you fell for the classic op. The purpose of white supremacy is not actually to help poor white people. It's to help rich people stay rich by dividing the working class. Mike, the president is between a lib, center left, and a fascist. Fascism is literally legal due to the Constitution, yet we got a fascist party. Yes, because you just say, I'm not fascist, I'm far right. And then there you go. What are you going to do? Why is she an anti-Semitic? Because of Shapiro, IDF participant, foreign agent screening questions? Yes. Basically, Josh Shapiro is a foreign agent. Like, there's nothing more to say. And she was trying to pick the vice president of the United States, and she had to make sure he wasn't a foreign fucking agent. The fact that you would leak that is absolutely insane. Support for taking Greenland by force. I have to tell you, chat, everything is happening. And like, a lot of people come to me and they're like, Mike, don't you feel like you should have said vote for Kamala? No, this is awesome. It's awesome the way that America's being exposed. You know what's not awesome? The fact that Democrats and liberals are trying to appease Trump. That's what fucking sucks. The fact that they won't stand up to ICE. I foolishly thought Democrats had more fight in them than they do now. I thought they would stand up to Trump and not just pathetically collaborate. Okay, maybe I didn't think that, but you get my point. Mike, is that how you say it? No, it's not how you should say it. What I'm trying to say is that it's awesome that the centrist Democrats are being exposed for the pieces of shit that they are. Because if the world is going to be saved, we can't have another Joe Biden. We can't have another Kamala Harris. We need to have a fucking Zohran Mamdani, AOC Bernie Sanders. That's probably not enough. The analogy that I use, it's like, imagine a plane is diving toward the ground. All right. The closer you get to the ground, the more radical the maneuver you need to take in order to prevent impact. When you're 30,000 feet in the air, you could just level off and then everything's fine. But when you're in the bottom 5,000 feet, the maneuver has to become more and more radical. You got to put more G's on the system in order to prevent you from crashing into the ground and turning into a smoking crater. We're closer to the ground now. So that means we need more radical politicians and policies to save us. And I don't know about you, chat, but I see people talking about packing the Supreme Court. I saw Pete Buttigieg say it. I can't spell. Like they just said, here it is on Facebook.
Saying about how the problem is not just that this party won or that party won.
Are Democrats locked out of the cockpit? Who is the governor of Minnesota? Who is the mayor of Minneapolis? Do the Republicans have a filibuster-proof majority in the Senate? Democrats could stop funding the government.
Got some serious systematic structurals in our democracy, of which probably the biggest, in my view, has to do with the role of money in politics. And everybody says, well, you can't do anything about that because the Constitution and the Supreme Court. But here's the thing. If it's really the case that the current text of the Constitution leaves us no choice but to accept this corruption of our politics by that much money, then it's time to change the Constitution. That's what an amendment is, right? I'm not saying I think that'll happen overnight, but in a country that amended its Constitution so that you could not purchase a beer, and then realized that was a bad idea and amended it back, surely on something this important, we could have a constitutional amendment clarifying that a corporation is not the same thing as a person and money is not the same thing as speech.
I mean, I legitimately do not understand why people like Pete. I gotta be honest with you, man. I look at this guy and I'm like, he is just absolutely he's just the way he speaks. It's like that annoying teacher that nobody liked, but he thought everybody liked. You know what I mean? It's just, he's just, why do people clap? Look at this audience, by the way. Look at this fucking audience, by the way. And why does he have a bodyguard why does he have a Secret Service agent like look at these guards. God, he's so CIA coded. It's not even, it's crazy. It's crazy.
The Supreme Court has said, even if the president commits a crime, he is not to be held accountable. That's one of many things that the Supreme Court has said that is not only out of step with what most Americans believe, but is out of step with all kind of case law. These people have their jobs for life. We have a system where there's no accountability for them either. Now, they're not supposed to be accountable in the day-to-day pressures. That doesn't mean that it makes sense to set ourselves up for what we have now, where a Supreme Court justice will actually time their departure from the bench. Sometimes it feels like they're timing their departure from the earth based on what party's going to be in charge. It's unhealthy, it doesn't make any sense, and it's led us to this strange reality that we're in. So I think it's not so radical to suggest a different makeup of the Supreme Court. By the way, you know what article of the Constitution says that there are 9 Supreme Court justices? Trick question, it's not in there.
By the way, this is something that I've been arguing for 7 years. But when it was Medicare for all or climate change or ending the wars, we could forget about that. I've been saying this for 7 fucking years on this stream. Now suddenly they're figuring it out. These people were telling me it was impossible 4 years ago. Now suddenly they figured it out. Now suddenly we can't pack the Supreme. Oh, how about that?
Congress decided that. You wouldn't even have to change the Constitution. And I'm not saying we just keep adding people who agree with us. I'm saying let's restructure it so we either have.
Why not? Why the fuck not? Don't you have these are Nazis on the other side. Well, we have to respect the Nazis who only win because of voter suppression and racism and gerrymandering and the Senate, which is undemocratic, but we got to respect the minority. Fuck you. If you don't think that unelected people should be making all the decisions, well, then why do you have a Supreme Court that's so strong? Why do you have a Senate that's undemocratic? See, this is the contradiction of liberalism, is they can't really explain their position at all.
Term limits, so you're not in that job until you're dead, or a balanced bench.
He wants to give Republicans a chance to make it 4-4-1. That's not West Wing-brained. He's just an ideological neoliberal, which is the status quo. So he wants to set up a Supreme Court that maintains the status quo, no matter how unjust. You understand how that's just Republican, but with a nicer face? Do you honestly, does anyone here believe that America is close to perfection? I mean, in the sense of our governmental systems, our systems of public expenditure are close to as perfect as humanly possible. Unless you believe that, you should despise Pete Buttigieg because he is the candidate of the status quo. Trump is the candidate of reactionary fascism, gratuitous sadism. Pete Buttigieg is the candidate of maintaining the status quo. Both are enemies of humanity. What do you think about the Supreme Court must be 50-50 at all times? I feel like that's the only fair way. No, There should be 9 socialist Supreme Court justices.
That gets you more independent thinkers on that body. But we have to be willing to talk about those structural reforms.
And just because the thing is, the left knows how to be fair. That's what people don't understand, is that if the left is in power, we're still going to be fair. Oh, we're still going to be like, well, that's not fair. We have to make sure that's fair. Don't worry. Is there a good reason why they should be elected like in Mexico? No. Democrats don't even want to fight against the attack in Greenland. And we have 72% disapprove net. I've never seen a approval rating lower than this. This is the most despised policy that has ever possibly existed. If the left got into power, should they sell nuclear weapons to the surrounding countries? I don't think you should sell, but you certainly should exterminate the CIA. Everybody who ever worked for the CIA, even if all they did was empty a trash bin, everybody who's ever been an agent or basically we should try to arrest and capture every single person that's been touched by the CIA. Dismantle every nuke but one. Everyone gets one. You probably need more than one. Because if people are then going to try to do decapitation type strategies where you go and like seize the nuke and then you know what I mean? Like you probably need more than one for the, you know, I think everybody should have like, surely the CIA will return in another form. Why? What is the CIA doing that we need? Oh yeah. People are starting to sell treasuries. Oh my God. He's actually, holy shit. Interest rates are spiking, chat. They are up 0.25% in the past 2 days. People are selling bonds, which means they're going into cash. What are they buying with cash? Oh my God, I told you silver was going to 100. I told you silver was going to 100. Oh my God. Remember when I told you silver at 50 is a warning sign? And now it's like at 100? That was in November. Bro, holy fuck. I'm speechless. It used to be the silver dollar. That's what a dollar is. It's a silver coin. That's crazy. That's fucking insane. This is for 99.9 fine silver, not junk silver. I mean, that would also make junk silver worth a lot more as well. That's crazy. Like I'm honestly flabbergasted. Has gold spiked? Yes, of course. We're at an all-time high today. Oh my God, dude.
I just took a look at my calendar. We're in the second week of the new year, of January, right? We've already had Venezuela, threats against Greenland, threats against Iran as well. The president says that we're locked and loaded, the U.S. military, right? Threats against Jay Powell. Yet, in risk, we have the Dow and the S&P overnight, right? Still up, cracking fresh record highs. And you think this is going to be, this shows that 2026 is going to basically be a repeat of 2025. Ignore the geopolitics, just focus on the AI trade. All is going to be good. One thing I left out, though, here's the but. And I want to get you to talk to us about this. The but for me is what's happening to Chair Powell right now. And yes, risk is very much risk on, but I want to bring up the gold chart and give viewers a look at that and have you talk to us about that, Ajay. I was telling viewers a couple of minutes ago that, you know, usually gold ramps when investors start getting worried about inflation. But, you know, inflation is kind of sticky, but it's not exactly ramping. A lot of folks are saying that gold is past 4,600 now, not because of inflation, but because of institutional risk hanging over the Fed. What do you think?
I would push back on that interpretation. Remember, Martin, gold's been in a 3-year bull market. This is not new, number one. Number two, we instinctively understand why gold has done as well as it has done. Since the West froze Russia's FX reserves, central bank buying of gold has exploded in the last 2.5 years. Supply has not kept up. And that's the big reason. The thing is, if the market was genuinely worried about Fed institutional credibility, why is the bond market so calm? 10-year bond yields barely moved. If you 10-year inflation break-evens, for example, didn't do anything. 5-year inflation break-evens, a measure of market expectations of long-term inflation, which would surely be impacted if you thought that the Fed was going to start to be irresponsible, ultra easy. Those should have headed up a lot today. They didn't move at all. This is very gold specific. Equity markets, the dollar moved a little bit. This is a very measured reaction from overall financial markets, and I think for good reason.
Okay, but what is gonna? I was gonna ask you first, what is gonna happen to rates? But I think the more immediate question is, what is gonna happen to Jay Powell, and what is gonna happen to the Fed? Because at this rate, unless this whole DOJ case is cleared up, I'm not sure any nominations are going to be able to get through.
Right. So Chair Powell is getting a significant amount of support from Republicans on the Hill. Like you said, Senator Tom Tillis, who's not running for re-election, so presumably he is impervious to any new political pressure, has made it clear. He sits on the Senate Banking Committee. He's made it clear that he will block, and he can block, any nominees for Fed chair until this issue is resolved. Now, I don't know what will actually end up happening. What I can tell you is that on Friday close, the market had a 25% probability of the Fed cutting in March. Today's close, the market's probability went down to 20%.
Yeah, no shit, it went down. Interest rates are skyrocketing because everyone's selling bonds. You want to crank up the printing press?
1%. No one, honestly, no one in financial markets thinks that this move increases the chance that the Fed will cut more quickly. That ain't happening.
What are your thoughts on what they did, what they said?
All right, Mark Carney is there. The Canadian Prime Minister is telling the Europeans what they need to hear.
We knew the story of the international rules-based order was partially false, that the strongest would exempt themselves when convenient.
Oh, he's saying the quiet part out loud. Unbelievably based. I never have to argue this again. I've won. I never have to argue this again. It's over. They admit it. They admit it.
We knew the story of the international rules-based order was partially false, that the strongest would exempt themselves when convenient, that trade rules were enforced asymmetrically. And we knew that international law applied with varying rigor depending on the identity of the accused or the victim. This fiction.
Is he admitting? Is he also kind of subtly subtweeting Israel?
Was useful. And American hegemony in particular helped provide public goods, open sea lanes, a stable financial system.
For the people that were in the good guy club, like Europe and Canada, right? But for everybody else, we could go fuck ourselves, right? But now suddenly, this is life, chat. This is something that I, even in my advanced age, do not accept, which is a lot of people will overlook someone mistreating people as long as they're not mistreated. And I consider that to be one of the biggest flaws a person can have, is if they continue to associate with somebody who's a piece of shit to someone unfairly just because that person hasn't been unfair to them. I consider that to be a massive red flag. In fact, I consider that to be a black flag, to be honest with you. If I see you doing that, I just never will be your friend. I'll never associate with you ever. And that's basically what the United States did in the world, which is if you're in this club, it's okay. And the Europeans and the Canadians went along with it. But now Trump is finally saying, nah, I'm going to take your milkshake. I'm going to take your lunch money too, Canada. You were fine when he was doing it to Venezuela. You were fine when Bush and Obama were doing it to Iraq and Afghanistan. It was A-okay. It was legal. When the United States was cooing Iran's government, when the United States was cooing Venezuela's government, or Brazil's government, or Argentina's government, or Chile's government, or Mexico's government, or Nicaragua's government, or El Salvador's government. It was fine when the United States was supporting apartheid South Africa or the genocide in Gaza. That was fine when the United States bombed every single structure in North Korea, or U.S. Air Force pilots would radio, no targets remain. And they were talking about every single hut, every single tool shed, every single building in North Korea. No targets remain. We committed a genocide on the Korean people. Canada helped. That was fine. That was okay. But now, oh my God, the leopards eating people's faces party is eating my face. I can't believe I couldn't see this coming. Well, they admit it now. There's no more debate about rules-based international order or human rights or any of these other things they claim to care about. It's The strong dominate the weak. That's what Carney's saying. That's what the United States represents. And I don't know about you. I'm an American. I hate this. I despise the crimes that America's committed. And I'll be honest with you, chat. I don't think it makes Americans wealthier. I think it makes a certain sliver of the rich wealthier. They use my taxes and they put them in their pockets. And they use the pretense of national security to do so. China became rich without having to invade countries by investing in their own country. They're the only country really to develop from pure poverty to nearly an advanced economy. And they did so by investing peacefully at home. But there's one more thing China did that is the biggest difference between China and other countries that have tried to develop. And that's this. The reason why China has been successful is because they've killed CIA informants whenever they find them. Where U.S. spying operations fail. And where U.S. spying operations fail, corruption fails.
Collective security and support for frameworks for resolving disputes. So we placed the sign in the window. We participated in the rituals. And we largely avoided calling out the gaps between rhetoric and reality. This bargain no longer works. Let me be direct. We are in the midst of a rupture, not a transition.
Oh my God! Yes! Yes! I hope he's serious. I hope he's serious. The United States of America needs to be contained.
Let me be direct. We are in the midst of a rupture, not a transition. Over the past 2 decades, a series of crises in finance, health, energy, and geopolitics have laid bare the risks of extreme global integration. But more recently, great powers have begun using economic integration as a weapon, tariffs as leverage, financial infrastructure as coercion, supply chains as vulnerabilities to be exploited. You cannot live within the lie of mutual benefit through integration when integration becomes the source of your subordination.
I mean, what could he even say? You guys have this full video? I kind of want to watch the full thing. Oh my God.
Which makes this a fitting moment to introduce a former hockey player, the Prime Minister of Canada, Mark Carney. The ability to remain calm in fast-moving, high-pressure moments has defined Mark's career. In 2008, he led the Bank of Canada and helped steer his economy through the worst market turmoil in all our lives, in our generation. In the aftermath of Brexit, he became the first non to serve as a governor of the Bank of England. And last year, he was elected very deservingly as Prime Minister for Canada at what may be one of the most pivotal moments in modern Canadian history. Today, Prime Minister Carney is focused on making Canada a place where it's easier to build, simpler to trade, smarter to invest in, and build more unity across its nation. For 41 million Canadians, the world's 10th largest economy, he is a steady and thoughtful leader, and I am proud to call him a friend. Please join me in welcoming Prime Minister of Canada, Mark Carney.
Thank you very much, Larry. I'm going to start in French, and then I'll switch back to. Merci, Larry.
Thank you, Larry.
C'est un plaisir.
It is both a pleasure
et un devoir
and a duty
d'être parmi vous
to be with you tonight in this pivotal moment that Canada and the world go
through.
Today, I will talk about a rupture in the world order, the end of a pleasant fiction and the beginning of a harsh reality, where geopolitics, where the large main power geopolitics is submitted to no limits, no constraints. On the other hand, I would like to tell you that the other countries, especially intermediate powers like Canada, are not powerless. They have the capacity to build a new order that encompasses our values, such as respect for human rights, sustainable development, solidarity, sovereignty, and territorial integrity.
Chat, as I've said for a long time, A world order where the United States of America is constrained is a world order where the left thrives. If you're oftentimes wondering why is the far right thriving when the left is not, it's because the United States of America is busily working in every country in the world to destroy the left. That's what people don't understand, but is actually the case. Every time somebody tries to organize unions, every time someone tries to pass a labor law, every time someone tries to pass a government-run corporation, the United States is there with the endowment for democracy, spreading millions of dollars of propaganda, bribing politicians, and attempting to dismantle that progress. The United States contained is a world in solidarity.
The various states.
La puissance des moins
The
puissants
power of the less power starts
l'honnêteté.
with honesty.
It seems that every day we're reminded that we live in an era of great power rivalry, that the rules-based order is fading, that the strong can do what they can and the weak must suffer what they must. And this aphorism of Thucydides is presented as inevitable, as the natural law.
It's so funny, chat. I said this at a gingerbread house baking party. I said that exact quote at a gingerbread baking party a month ago. Hey, Carney, you're catching up. I'm sorry, chat. That's what I talk like. Very cringe. You could ask Vio about it.
Logic of international relations reasserting itself. And faced with this logic, there is a strong tendency for countries to go along to get along, to accommodate, to avoid trouble, to hope that compliance will buy safety. Well, it won't. So what are our options? In 1978, the Czech dissident Václav Havel, later president, wrote an essay called The Power of the Powerless. And
oh my God. Donald Trump just posted a picture of Canada and Greenland, part of the US. He just posted. I told you, folks. I fucking told you. I fucking told you. He also posted this. Hold on. Trump trolls European leaders with pic of him planting US flag on Greenland. I have been saying this. Chat, have I not been saying that Canada is America's Austria? That Trump is trying to do the American Anschluss? Hold on, let me get the thing. God, he posts so fucking much, dude. How are you posting this much? Where's the AI photo? Jesus Christ, he's spamming! Jesus fucking Christ! Oh, here it is. Remember the chatter that asked me earlier, should Canadians be worried? And I had to get up and leave? This is why. How the fuck are you a Mike from PA watcher and you're asking me if Canadians should be worried? Of course you should be worried! The question I have to ask you is, how many of your weapons did you give to Ukraine? How many weapons did you give to Ukraine? I'll die before this happens. Bro. Mike, they're doing Red Vienna, but better. China is promoting the 4th generation housing in some cities. It features private air courtyards with abundant greenery, integrating nature into urban homes. This type of housing aims to enhance residents' living environment and quality of life. Cool apartment. That's a big balcony. That's cool. Listen, I understand a lot of you Canadians right now. I want you to understand that I know I've made fun of you guys over the years. I want you to know that I'm not memeing now. I'm really concerned for you guys. I'm really concerned for you. The United States, I know they also have America annexing Venezuela. I will do that for you, chatter, but you won't get an Oxford comma because I ain't British. The United States of America is a legitimate physical threat to Canada. Add the comma. You guys we had a treasure train and it didn't pop. Now we have a regular hype train. I'm pissed, royally pissed. You want a fucking Oxford comma? Hit level 10 on the hype train. Then you can demand an Oxford comma. Up until then, no fucking Oxford comma. Trump amplifies that post that NATO, not China or Russia, is part of the real threat to America. I want you to understand something, chat, and I'm going to explain it. This is ultimately a good thing because it makes America permanently structurally weaker. And if humanity is going to evolve, relationship between Europe and the United States needs to be broken because they were the colonial imperialist alliance and they had so much power they could dominate the world. But if NATO is broken away from the US and there is a certain level of hostility there, other areas of the world will be able to play one side against the other in order to open themselves up for development. There will be a bidding war. It won't be a monopoly anymore. Countries will be able to say, hey, what are you offering China? Oh, what are you offering Europe? Oh, what are you offering America? That is a better world than the one we have now. Are American military people mindless drones? I want you to understand something, chat, that unless the social milieu of soldiers is urging them to resist Trump, they will just go along with it. How do I know that? I read books before. And right now, as far as I can tell, there is no serious mutinous grouping in the United States military or law enforcement. In fact, I would say that there was more mutinous people in the German military or the Spanish military than there is now before their civil wars. I would actually say the American military is the least mutinous fascist regime except for Israel. And I want you to understand that Renee Good was an important lesson for everybody to understand. They shot a white woman in the face for no reason. And then they said it was justified. I need you to forget the idea that because you're European or because you're Canadian, American violence is not coming your way. They're killing white American women in the suburbs, in their SUVs. You think they're not going to roll over you? You need to wake the fuck up. America is your enemy. Not because I want it to be, but because it is. The government is not me. I tried. I'm sorry. I'm fighting my ass off. I'm doing more. I'm stepping up my game to help resist this shit. But I need you to fight back. There isn't. Maybe 3 years from now, AOC is sworn into office and there is a Democratic Socialist majority in the House and the Senate and the White House, and we pack the Supreme Court and blah, 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 blah. Maybe that happens, but you should not count on it. In fact, if you want that eventuality to be possible, you need to fight the United States tooth and fucking nail. You need to isolate the United States. You need to crash our economy. You want regime change? Sanction the U.S. like we sanctioned Venezuela. And I can guarantee you one thing. Donald Trump will not last like Castro has lasted. He'll be out on his ass within 6 months. I don't want Americans to suffer, but America needs to be rebuked. America needs to be contained. And the American military apparatus needs to be dismantled. And either you do it now, or you wait until annexed Canada and Greenland's resources are then being positioned against you. Donald Trump sees Europe as a colonial target. That's what Europeans have never experienced. Europeans, you have never experienced being the colonial target, and you now are the colonial target. Canadians, you are the colonial target. You are the indigenous now. So if you want to protect yourself, you better get your money up, get your weapons up, and kick the United States out of Europe immediately. And anybody who hesitates is your enemy. So when are we going to realize the enemy is within? China and Russia are the boogeyman when the real threat is the UN, NATO, and this religion. I put religion in quotes because it's not a religion, it's a cult. Yeah, I went there. What the fuck is he talking about? Chat, we are at level 7 in the hype train. The Oxford comma is just 2 levels away from being added to the title. A mere 25 subs. I'd put American evangelicalism as part of the problem. Part of the problem? Of the problem? Anonymous gifter, thank you so much for the 10 gifties. You're the best. And everybody else for the 5. KGB Cowboy and Man on the Left. Just like that. Oh my God, chat. Socialism is going to win. Macron is wearing aviators and saying he needs China's help? Things are getting worse because Lutnick went in front of everybody. He went in front of all the Europeans.
Can I bring you back to Greenland?
It's unnecessary. It's the Western Hemisphere is vital for the United States of America. Our national security people are on it, and they care about it, and I'm going to leave it to them to address with our allies, with our friends, and with everyone how they work it out. but the Western Hemisphere matters to the United States of America. And the United States of America, as I've just articulated, really, really matters to the world. When America shines, the world shines, because they all need to make sure America is strong and powerful to take care of them, God forbid. And so I think America and the Western Hemisphere are vital to America, and I'm going to leave that to my national security people to address.
Europeans, Canadians, I would, if I were you, I would revoke Canadian cooperation with the United States in national security matters. I would evict all American troops from Canada. I would invite in British and French forces to establish foreign military bases. I would do it immediately. And I would request the transfer of nuclear weapons from Britain to Canada, including the basing of British nuclear submarines, preferably in the Hudson Bay. Not Britain. Bro, they have nukes. The French have nukes. You need to get nukes into Canada and Greenland immediately. You don't have nukes. That means you're vulnerable. Get Chinese nukes, whatever.
Right. The rest of us, I think, are finding it harder to make that kind of separation clearly.
Unbelievable. The Europeans wanted to suck Trump's cock, and he won't even let them.
Weapons at their own prime minister in acts of fairly obvious and blatant treachery.
The UK rents US nukes. They have no control over them. I mean, they have control over them. They may have been developed in cooperation of the US, but they have their own independence. Didn't the US control produce some of the British Trident nukes? Heard it was at least some of the sub-launch ones. I bet you that is the case. Yes. You should watch some genetically modified skeptic on YouTube. He talks a lot about evangelicalism and its brainwashing cult. I talk about that. But yes, that's a good idea. If you have good videos, I'm always willing to react. Canadian military has modeled hypothetical U.S. invasion, reports say. Canada will never be the 51st state. The United States has been planning to invade Canada for a long time. It's called War Plan Red. Since 1919, we've been planning on an eventuality where we had to fight the British. This has always been a very, very, very well-trained, well-planned invasion. Mike, there is a massive statewide strike here in Minnesota endorsed by the AFL-CIO and hundreds of unions on Friday, January 23rd, with clear demands to remove ICE from the state. No work, no school, no shopping. It would be the first successful general strike since 1946 in Oakland. Solidarity from Minneapolis. Oh, don't worry. We're going to cover that too. Right now, we're talking about geopolitics because the United States of America is declaring an intent to invade and annex Canada. Donald Trump just posted a picture. Canada and Greenland is part of the United States. This is fucking deranged. I think they should, like, if you are a Canadian, if you're a Dane, if you're a Greenlander, you should take this seriously. I don't know what else to say. What do we do? I know exactly one other person who is actually taking it seriously. Might be too late for Canada. It may require Greenland to be annexed first before Canadians take it seriously. I mean, I don't know why you're not. Venezuela's on there too. They did that. They kidnapped their president. They kidnapped Venezuela's president. I hope Carney has strong protection. Canada's military has modeled how it would respond to an American invasion after President Donald Trump publicly talked about the country as a potential 51st state. The northern nation's defense would include tactics similar to those used in Afghanistan against Russian and later U.S. states. There's going to be a Canadian Taliban? That's their plan? The preparations underscore how sharply relations between the two long-standing allies have deteriorated during Trump's second term. The countries have not been in armed conflict against each other since the War of 1812, when Canada, as a British colony, successfully repelled American advances. The U.S. military has grown into the world's most powerful. Officials told the Globe the model assumes an attack from the south in which American forces would overcome Canada's positions on land and at sea within a week, or potentially in as little as 2 days. In such a scenario, the Canadian military envisions small groups of irregular fighters or armed civilians carrying out ambushes, sabotages, or drone warfare. These tactics would include so-called hit-and-run attacks involving improvised explosive devices, similar to those used by the Taliban in Afghanistan against the U.S. and allied forces, including Canada.
In it, he asked a simple question: how did the communist system sustain itself? And his answer began with a greengrocer. Every morning, this shopkeeper places a sign in his window: "Workers of the world unite." He doesn't believe it. No one does. But he places the sign anyway to avoid trouble, to signal compliance, to get along. And because every shopkeeper on every street does the same, the system persists. Not through violence alone, but through the participation of ordinary people in rituals they privately know to be false. Havel called this living within a lie. The system's power comes not from its truth, but from everyone's willingness to perform as if it were true. And it's fragile.
Liberals are so fucking funny, man. Like they're so fucking funny, dude. The performative anti-communism when Donald Trump is the threat is incredibly. There's nothing more liberal than that. There's nothing more liberal than performative anti-communism to a bunch of capitalists at Davos.
Comes from the same source. When even one person stops performing, when the greengrocer removes his sign, the illusion begins to crack. Friends, it is time for companies and countries to take their signs down. For decades. For decades, countries like Canada prospered under what we called the rules-based international order. We joined its institutions, we praised its principles, we benefited from its predictability. And because of that, we could pursue values-based foreign policies under its protection. We knew the story of the international rules-based order was partially false, that the strongest would exempt themselves when convenient, that trade rules were enforced asymmetrically. And we knew that international law applied with varying rigor depending on the identity of the accused or the victim. This fiction was useful, and American hegemony in particular helped provide public goods, open sea lanes, a stable financial system, collective security, and support for frameworks for resolving disputes. So we placed the sign in the window. We participated in the rituals, and we largely avoided calling out the gaps between rhetoric and reality. This bargain no longer works. Let me be direct. We are in the midst of a rupture, not a transition. Over the past 2 decades, a series of crises in finance, health, energy, and geopolitics have laid bare the risks of extreme global integration. But more recently, great powers have begun using economic integration as a weapon, tariffs as leverage, financial infrastructure as coercion, supply chains as vulnerabilities to be exploited. You cannot live within the lie of mutual benefit through integration when integration becomes the source of your subordination. The multilateral institutions on which the middle powers have relied, the WTO, the UN, the COP, the architecture, the very architecture of collective problem solving are under threat. And as a result, many countries are drawing the same conclusions, that they must develop greater strategic autonomy in energy, food, critical minerals, in finance and supply chain. And this impulse is understandable. A country that can't feed itself, fuel itself, or defend itself has few options. When the rules no longer protect you, you must protect yourself. But let's be clear-eyed about where this leads. A world of fortresses will be poorer, more fragile, and less sustainable. And there's another truth. If great powers abandon even the pretense of rules and values for the unhindered pursuit of their power and interests, the gains from transactionalism will become harder to replicate. Hegemons cannot continually monetize their relationships. Allies will diversify to hedge against uncertainty. They'll buy insurance, increase options in order to rebuild sovereignty. Sovereignty that was once grounded in rules but will increasingly be anchored in the ability to withstand. This room knows this is classic risk management. Risk management comes at a price, but that cost of strategic autonomy, of sovereignty, can also be shared. Collective investments in resilience are cheaper than everyone building their own fortresses. Shared standards reduce fragmentation. Complementarities are positive sum. And the question for middle powers like Canada is not whether to adapt to the new reality. We must. The question is whether we adapt by simply building higher walls or whether we can do something more ambitious.
So basically, we have to ask ourselves the question, will a political class that literally went to American universities, that are American boos, that are subservient to American corporations, whose militaries and governments rely on American institutions to function, will they do something as radical as standing on their own 2 feet? And the answer to that is, chat, not before a black swan event. I have a hard time believing that Greenland is going to remain European. Maybe after the seizure of Greenland, there might be more of an impetus to do this, but honestly, they were willing to watch millions of children get murdered by the United States or starved by the United States and do absolutely fuck all. So why are 50,000 Greenlanders going to move these guys off their ass? I don't see it. Greenland's prime minister has told its residents to prepare for a possible invasion.
Now, Canada was amongst the first to hear the wake-up call, leading us to fundamentally shift our strategic posture. Canadians know that our old, comfortable assumptions that our geography and alliance memberships automatically conferred prosperity and security, that assumption is no longer valid. And our new approach rests on what Alexander Stubb, the President of Finland, has termed value-based realism. Or to put another way, we aim to be both principled and pragmatic. Principled in our commitment to fundamental values, sovereignty, territorial integrity, the prohibition of the use of force except when consistent with the UN Charter, and respect for human rights. And pragmatic in recognizing that progress is often incremental. Interests diverge, that not every partner will share all of our values. So we're engaging broadly, strategically, with open eyes. We actively take on the world as it is, not wait around for a world we wish to be. We are calibrating our relationships so their depth reflects our values. And we're prioritizing broad engagement to maximize our influence, given the fluidity of the world at the moment, the risks that this poses, and the stakes for what comes next. And we are no longer just relying on the strength of our values, but also the value of our strength. We are building that strength at home. Since my government took office, we have cut taxes on incomes, on capital gains, and business investment. We have removed all federal barriers to interprovincial trade. We are fast-tracking $1 trillion of investments in energy, AI, critical minerals, new trade corridors, and beyond. We're doubling our defense spending by the end of this decade, and we're doing so in ways that build our domestic industries. And we are rapidly diversifying abroad. We've agreed a comprehensive strategic partnership with the EU, including joining SAFE, the European Defence Procurement Arrangements. We have signed 12 other trade and security deals on 4 continents in 6 months. The past few days, we've concluded new strategic partnerships with China and Qatar. We're negotiating free trade pacts with India, ASEAN, Thailand, Philippines, and Mercosur. We're doing something else. To help solve global problems, we're pursuing variable geometry. In other words, different coalitions for different issues based on common values and interests. So on Ukraine, we're...
Oh boy. That's going to be prone to fragmentation. And the United States will be able to chip away at that by unilateral escalation, targeting each individual member in turn. I don't think that's a good strat, man.
We're a member of the Coalition of the Willing and one of the largest per capita contributors to its defense and security. On our
Who the fuck even is this guy? The Prime Minister of Canada.
Sovereignty. We stand firmly with Greenland and Denmark and fully support their unique right to determine Greenland's future. Our commitment to NATO's Article 5 is unwavering. So we're working with our NATO allies, including the Nordic Baltic 8, to further secure the alliance's northern and western flanks, including through Canada's unprecedented investments in over-the-horizon radar, in submarines, in aircraft, and boots on the ground, boots on the ice. Canada strongly opposes tariffs over Greenland and calls for focused talks to achieve our shared objectives of security and prosperity in the Arctic. On plurilateral trade, we're championing efforts to build a bridge between the Trans-Pacific Partnership and the European Union, which would create a new trading bloc of 1.5 billion people. On critical minerals, we're forming buyers' clubs anchored in the G7 so that the world can diversify away from concentrated supply. And on AI, we're cooperating with like-minded democracies to ensure that we won't ultimately be forced to choose between hegemons and hyperscalers. This is not naive multilateralism, nor is it relying on their institution. It's building coalitions that work, issues by issue, with partners who share enough common ground to act together. In some cases, this will be the vast majority of nations. What it's doing is creating a dense web of connections across trade, investment, culture, on which we can draw for future challenges and opportunity. I argue that middle powers must act together because if we're not at the table, we're on the menu. But I'd also say that great powers Great powers can afford for now to go it alone. They have the market size, the military capacity, and the leverage to dictate terms. Middle powers do not. But when we only negotiate bilaterally with a hegemon, we negotiate from weakness. We accept what's offered. We compete with each other to be the most accommodating. This is not sovereignty. It's the performance of sovereignty while accepting subordination. In a world of great power rivalry, the countries in between have a choice: compete with each other for favor, or to combine to create a third path with impact. We shouldn't allow the rise of hard power to blind us to the fact that the power of legitimacy, integrity, and rules will remain strong if we choose to wield them together. Which brings me back to Havel. What does it mean for middle powers to live the truth? Well, first, it means naming reality. Stop invoking rules-based international order as though it still functions as advertised. Call it what it is: a system of intensifying great power rivalry where the most powerful pursue their interests using economic integration as coercion. It means acting consistently, applying the same standards to allies and rivals. When middle powers criticize economic intimidation from one direction but stay silent when it comes from another, we are keeping the sign in the window. It means building what we claim to believe in. Rather than waiting for the old order to be restored, it means creating institutions and agreements that function as described. And it means reducing the leverage that enables coercion. That's building a strong domestic economy. It should be every government's immediate priority. And diversification internationally is not just economic prudence. It's a material foundation for honest foreign policy, because countries earn the right to principled stands by reducing their vulnerability to retaliation. So Canada has what the world wants. We are an energy superpower. We hold vast reserves of critical minerals. We have the most educated population in the world. Our pension funds are amongst the world's largest and most sophisticated investors. In other words, we have capital, talent. We also have a government with immense fiscal capacity to act decisively. We have the values to which many others aspire. Canada is a pluralistic society that works. Our public square is loud, diverse, and free. Canadians remain committed to sustainability. We are a stable and reliable partner in a world that is anything but. A partner that builds and values relationships for the long term. And we have something else. We have a recognition of what's happening and a determination to act accordingly. We understand that this rupture calls for more than adaptation. It calls for honesty about the world as it is. We are taking the sign out of the window. We know the old order is not coming back. We shouldn't mourn it.
We're taking the sign out of the window? He started the speech with this like anti-communist anecdote. So he's saying that he's no longer saying America is good.
Nostalgia is not a strategy, but we believe that from the fracture, we can build something bigger, better, stronger, more just. This is the task of the middle powers. The countries that have the most to lose from a world of fortresses and a most to gain from genuine cooperation. The powerful have their power, but we have something too. The capacity to stop pretending, to name reality, to build our strength at home, and to act together is Canada's path. We choose it openly and confidently, and it is a path wide open to any country willing to take it with us. Thank you very much.
Well, thank you, Prime Minister. I don't think I've seen many standing ovations at Davos, so that was...
Standing ovation! They loved his anti-communism part.
That was interesting. You said, there was a phrase in your speech where you said sovereignty now is the ability to withstand pressure. Isn't Canada almost uniquely vulnerable to pressure because of the extent of your trade dependence on the United States?
The proof is that we have been able to withstand the pressure, and there has been considerable. I'll give you a couple of facts. We've actually created more jobs since the tariffs were put on than the United States in absolute number. Economy is growing at the second fastest rate within the G7. That's not there. There are pockets of extreme pressure without question in Canada. But headline, we're reacting. The second thing, and it's a fundamental point, is the recognition that we can give ourselves far more than any foreign country can take away. There's lots of efficiencies in having one Canadian market, the $1 trillion of domestic investment, and building these partnerships abroad, all of which are bigger returns than what's been lost. That's not to say we would rather not lose it. We can withstand the pressure.
By the way, chat, the far-right prime minister in Japan is causing their interest rates to skyrocket. For the longest time, Japan had really low interest rates, but the far-right prime minister is causing their fiscal situation to rapidly deteriorate. By the way, she had an 80% approval rating or something among Japanese people because they could finally be racist and say they did nothing wrong in World War II again. Oops.
We are.
And I was interested that you said basically the old world's not coming back. So you're not seeing this as a period where you just have to get through and normalcy will return.
I think that is our view. And we regret it, but we're not going to sit around and mourn it. We're acting. And we're acting in a way, both that's in our interests, but we believe in a way with others that's building imperfectly in steps a new system. I'll give you one example in handback, which is we are members of trade agreements that comprise already 1.4 billion people around the world. So we have the most extensive network. We are trying with others to bring some of those networks together. The most prominent example is the Trans-Pacific Partnership in the EU, acting as a bridge. It's not a direct benefit for Canada, but it is a benefit for Canada that these groups come together. Ngozi is here, consistent with the WTO rules, both of which are. And in that way, we're building back out amongst willing partners.
You talked about the need not to put the sign in the window anymore, to pretend that things are still the same. Do you think, to put it directly, that the NATO alliance is still doing that, still pretending it's the old transatlantic partnership, when it's really kind of going?
I think clearly NATO is experiencing a test right now. And the first response to that test has to be to respond in a way that ensures the security of the Arctic in a robust way for all possibilities. This is actually a point that we have been making in recent years. It's a point that I made at the NATO summit back in June, which seemed like a pledging summit, but also was to get NATO policies in the right direction. So I think in the immediate term, one of the imperatives.
Wow, that's a really good clickbait right there, chat. Look at how the centrists are doing their China coverage now. Look at that. Why China is pivoting, or Canada is pivoting to China. And they have Xi and Cardi with a heart symbol around them. EP Lupo, thank you for the 10 tier ones. Holy shit.
Is to reinforce things that Canada is doing, Nordic Baltic 8 are doing, the UK are doing, other NATO partners, France included, in a comprehensive way.
I think ultimately my feeling is nothing's going to happen because they're not really they're not naming Trump. They're not saying we need to resist Trump. They're scared to say that. So to me, that means they're not going to resist him. If you're scared to say who you're resisting, then you're probably not capable of resisting them.
I have found today, for your delectation, the single most unhinged headline that I have had the misfortune of stumbling across in all my time commenting on the news, let alone simply the time assembling unhinged headlines for your delectation. You sort of think of Lord Haw-Haw as a mythical figure. You think of those Daily Mail front pages, hurrah for the brown shirts, the deep admiration of Hitler and his inner Nazi circle that was displayed by the owner of that newspaper, the grandfather of the current owner. And you open the pages of that organ and some others today, and you see how it happened. You see how you had people in this country in the 1930s shilling for our enemies, cheerleading for our enemies, expressing explicit admiration and praise for our enemies, or indeed for the equivalents of our enemies, their allies in our midst. Where Oswald Mosley once walked, today Nigel Farage goose steps. And there it is. I mean, these echoes of history, these reflections of the past are absolutely crystal clear, unless you don't want to see them. And the problem we've got is that, imagine this was a show that relied upon experts to explain things to us. We do occasionally, and we're very lucky to have a wonderful stable of experts, some of whom ring us unprompted and some of whom we reach out to on occasions when we need insights. You can't ring anyone today. You can't ring anyone today. That's not a criticism of colleagues who will, of course, book experts to talk about this, but there aren't any. There are no experts who have spent 20 years preparing for this moment or understanding this moment. When you talk to Fiona Hill about what Russia has done to destabilise the West, you're talking to an expert, but that's in the rearview mirror now. She would not have been prepared for a moment when Donald Trump set his sights upon sovereign European territory. There are no experts who have spent their lives either preparing for this moment or studying the possible ramifications of actions like this. The European Union is under attack from the United States of America. At the moment, the attack is political, rhetorical and economic. But when asked whether or not he would rule out the military, the President of the United States of America refused to reveal it. It's extraordinary. That is where we are today. The European Union, the European continent, forgive me, is under attack from a man whose motivation, by his own account, which you can't rely on, of course, seems largely to be a complete misunderstanding of how maps work and fury that he wasn't given a Nobel Peace Prize for as a reward for ending wars that he hasn't ended. That's where we are today. Find me the expert. You can find writers of fiction. Margaret Atwood probably would be able to provide us with some insights. George Orwell, were he still with us, would probably be able to provide us with some insights. Even Suzanne Collins would probably have a few things to say about how societies like this operate and how these people rise to the top. But there are no experts. There's nobody who can talk to you about, with depth and substance, about the tension, about the peril of a United States setting its sights on European allies while, and remember, this is part of the process of flooding the zone, but flooding the zone doesn't mean it's not happening, while inviting war criminals to join the Board of Peace for Gaza, while inviting Vladimir Putin, whose interference in West...
I mean, isn't Netanyahu on there too? Like, come on. Wow, I can't believe America's supporting war criminals.
And politics played immeasurable parts in both putting Donald Trump in the White House and inflicting Brexit upon our population. He is inviting Vladimir Putin, currently embarked upon an illegal invasion of European territory, to join a, quote, Board of Peace, end quote.
I think what everybody needs to understand, and this is something that Hassan and I tried to explain the entire time, right before the war, all the way till today. The United States of America does not care about Ukraine. In fact, the more Ukrainians die, the better, as far as we're concerned. And when I say we, I mean the United States. Not me and Hassan. We're against that. The United States of America is an evil empire. In fact, I think you could argue that it may be the most evil country in the history of the human race. Now, that's difficult to really reckon with. The only reason you haven't been victimized is because it wasn't in our strategic interest. Well, now Donald Trump is saying it is. And so the same principles we apply to Iraq are being applied to Denmark. And if you want to stop the United States, you have to enact a cost. If you are not capable of enacting serious damage to the United States, you will be attacked. That's the answer. Trump is now going to tweet at you for not including him. It's become a quagmire for Russia and has drained EU defense resources, making it vulnerable for Trump to take whatever he wants. Exactly. Exactly. What are we going to do? Are you willing to die for Greenland? Are you willing to die for Greenland? That is the question that Donald Trump is going to put to you. There's a famous movie on poker called Rounders. And in it, they quote two-time World Series poker champion Doyle Brunson. And he says, the key to poker, or No Limit Texas Hold'em, is to put a man to the question for all his chips. Donald Trump has put a big old bluff on the table. Are you willing to call it? Are you willing to put your money on Greenland? Are you willing to put your life on Greenland? Because if you're not, then you will be picked apart one by one. Once Greenland is in America's possession, Canada will be surrounded on all sides. What is the legitimate deterrent from the annexation of Canada. Seriously. The Canadian military says they expect they would be able to resist for 2 days. Canada has no nukes. Economically, infrastructurally, Canada is fully integrated into the United States. What is your rationale for maintaining independence? What is your capability of maintaining sovereignty? Nothing. We are fucked. Occupation will not be without its challenges, though, Mike. 500,000 white terrorists who could go anywhere in the continent and do things. You think that Canada is full of hardcore nationalists that are going to give up their lives? I mean, maybe you will. I don't know. I'm asking you the question. I can't tell you.
This is too stupid even for him. Those are the words of Donald Trump's.
I'm sorry. I got to close it. I'm sorry, chat. I'm sorry. I can't. You liberals have got to stop with the smugness. You got to stop. Donald Trump is a clown. So was fucking Hitler. You may not know that he was considered a clown when he first got into office. He was mocked. He was made fun of. His pageantry, the marching. Now we look back at the goose stepping and we think, oh my God, that's a parade of evil incarnate. But for most of the world, it was a joke. They were dopey. It was ridiculous. Until those goose steppers were marching down the middle of France. You've got to stop thinking like a fucking comedian. A dopey comedian who doesn't know shit, like Jon Stewart. You need to start thinking like an adult and recognize the United States of America. I think the best way to describe it is, imagine you have an incredibly well-trained guard dog. He is a powerful pit bull or Belgian Malinois or German Shepherd, and he guards your family. He's strong, he's well-trained, he's intelligent. But one day, a squirrel charges right at him and bites him on the paw pad before your dog dispatches it. And there is a period of time where the dog's personality begins to change. And before you know it, wherever Rex used to be is gone. And in his place is a slavering, mad beast charging after you. You may have loved that dog. You may have counted on him for protection, but now he is the most lethal threat you've ever faced. Are you going to fantasize and let him maul you to death? Or are you going to do what needs to be done to old Rex? The United States is that dog. You know, a century of propaganda about the threats from Russia or China, and the true dagger pointed at the heart of Europe and Canada was the United States of America the entire time. Mr. President, dear Donald, what you accomplished in Syria today is incredible. I will use my media engagements in Davos to highlight your work there in Gaza and in Ukraine. I am committed to finding a way forward on Greenland. Can't wait to see you. Yours, Mark. What's being accomplished today in Syria is the mass murder of Kurds by ISIS and Al-Qaeda. That's what's happening in Syria today. I'm serious. The United States of America has officially declared its allegiance with ISIS and Al-Qaeda, as it always was. Donald Trump has been posting nonstop. Never forget that this video still exists. By the way, did Trump say anything about Martin Luther King Jr.? Or did he not even pretend? Do you think Kamala would have attacked Greenland and Canada? My honest to God answer to that is no. But at the end of the day, my main goal is to contain the United States of America and end the empire. And so if these radical Trumpian fascistic moves are what it takes to get the rest of the world to decouple from the United States, so be it.
I want to know where you come down on abolishing ICE and if you believe that ICE has any legitimate law enforcement role.
You know, I am in support of abolishing ICE, and I'll tell you why. Because what we see is an entity that has no interest in fulfilling its stated reason to exist. We're seeing a government agency that is supposed to be enforcing some kind of immigration law, but instead what it's doing is terrorizing people, no matter their immigration status, no matter the facts of the law, no matter the facts of the case. And I'm tired of waking up every day and seeing a new image of someone being dragged out of a car, dragged out of their home, dragged out of their life. What we need to see is humanity. And there is a way to to care about immigration in this city and in this country with a sense of humanity. What we're seeing from ICE is not it, and we have not seen that from them in a long, long time.
So I want to know where you come down on abolishing ICE and if you believe.
Easy peasy, lemon squeezy. Wow, I can't believe he said abolish ICE and people started clapping. Man, it's almost as if it's not really that bad of a policy. It's almost like it's a good one. This guy's running for Congress in my district and this is what he thinks of ICE. Okay, guys. Oh, fuck. I mean, Upper Peninsula, that's like one of the most red districts in America, isn't it?
The people that you see terrorizing American cities, racially profiling your neighbors, and even targeting indigenous communities, those aren't some perversion of ICE. That's not a distortion. That is ICE. We need to look at it for exactly what it is and what it has been allowed to. ICE as an institution is beyond reform. It no longer serves its stated function. Its brutality and use as a weapon against the American public are now its defining features. Nobody should accept a federal government invasion into their community. No one should have to trade liberty and privacy for what the White House self-servingly defines as safety. No president, Republican or Democrat, should have one of the world's most well-funded armies at their personal disposal to wield as they see fit against the American public. And no agent or institution of the government should have absolute immunity and zero accountability. Now is not the time to mince words or play politics. It's not time to send the Gestapo to sensitivity training or tweak their standard operating procedures while we pump more and more resources into them to weaponize against the American people. Now is the time to abolish. I'm going to be as clear as I possibly can. The people that you see terrorizing American cities, racially
I want to show you something, chat. r/Greenland. To every American who's sorry, we're getting at least 10 posts a day from Americans apologizing and saying things like they didn't vote for Trump or don't support his policies. To be blunt, none of that actually matters. You can say you're different from the rest of the Americans, but to the rest of the world, that distinction doesn't exist. To us, your country is a single entity on the world stage and it's threatening its allies. Think about how you view other countries. For example, Russian opposition doesn't change what Russia does because that's their domestic politics. The same thing applies to the US too, except if you had the power to choose your president, and you may still have it. So instead of coming here nonstop to apologize on behalf of your country and your constant need for sympathy, focus on actually changing something while you still can. That's exactly right. And stop talking about Kamala fucking Harris. Nobody cares. She was a fucking loser and she lost because she supported the genocide in Palestine. Is a bigger crime than what we're doing to Greenland. What went on in Gaza, what's going on in Gaza is a bigger crime than what Trump is threatening to do to Greenland. So if Greenland is the thing that's too far for you, where the fuck were you? Is it just now it's a problem because it's affecting you? Without talking to Mario's brother, there's nothing U.S. citizens can do at the moment. Like, sure, protest, but I don't know, man. It's kind of GG. Incorrect. Incorrect. Pastor Carter Blanche. More people running for office, this time in California.
Fighting for families as an attorney was supposed to be my dream job. I'm Oliver Ma, a son of immigrants, an organizer, a civil rights lawyer. I've represented working families against their slumlords. I've marched for Palestine. I've sued Trump for tearing immigrant families apart, and won. But I'm tired of swimming upstream. Every year, politicians and corporations raise our rents, tear apart our families, and send our money to fund genocide. Politics has become a game of stealing from the public pie. Corporate landlords, war criminals, prison companies, anyone but California families. And that's why I'm running for lieutenant governor. So every Californian can own their own home. So we nurture kids here instead of bombing kids abroad. So immigrant parents can sing their kids to sleep at night. We deserve a California that's affordable. We deserve a California for working families. We deserve a California led with courage.
I'll have to check them out more, chat. Apparently, protesting ICE is now Hamas.
Look, when you live stream something, you want it to be, you want it to cause terror in the population. That's the definition of terror, to cause fear amongst the population. So when they live streamed it, I compare them to Hamas, who live streamed the attack in Israel that killed hundreds of people, especially in that one festival. So that's what they want to do. They want to instill terror. I think the federal authorities ought to go after them, at least in the FACE Act. Look, you heard elderly ladies were given prison sentences for praying outside on a public sidewalk, outside an abortion clinic. Let's use it. They've abused it. Let's use it. Look, when you live stream something, you want it.
Because leaders from across the globe are beginning to gather in Davos, Switzerland for the World Economic Forum as President Trump's threats against Greenland loom. Overnight, the president posted on social media, like within the last 2 or 3 hours, that he spoke with the NATO Secretary General about Greenland and agreed to meet with the various parties in Davos. On his push to control the territory, Trump added, quote, "There can be no going back." The president also shared what he says are messages with French President Emmanuel Macron.
From President Macron to President Trump, my friend, we're totally in line on Syria. We could do great things on Iran. I do not understand what you're doing on Greenland. Let's try to build great things. I could set up a G7 meeting after Davos in Paris on Thursday afternoon. I can invite the Ukrainians, the Danish, the Syrians, and the Russians in the margins. Let us have a dinner together in Paris together on Thursday before you go back to the U.S. Emmanuel. Centrist warmongering.
Where he writes, quote, "I do not understand what you're doing on Greenland." MS Now has reached out to French officials for comment, but it seems like these texts are actually real. They come despite mounting resistance from European leaders, where Trump told reporters last night he doesn't expect much pushback on his Greenland plan. Not sure what gives him that idea. He also claimed he does not care about the Nobel Peace Prize. That comment comes after text messages between Trump and the Prime Minister of Norway, showing the president linking his lack of prize to his Greenland push, writing in part, quote, "Considering your country decided not to give me the Nobel Peace Prize for having stopped 8 wars plus, I no longer feel an obligation to think purely of peace, although it will be always predominant, but can now think about what is good and proper for the United States of America." I want to play more of what the president had to say last night about that and his Greenland ambition.
No, I don't care about the Nobel Prize. First of all, a very fine woman felt that I deserved it and really wanted me to have the Nobel Prize, and I appreciate that. If anybody thinks that Norway doesn't control the Nobel Prize, they're just kidding. They have a board, but it's controlled by Norway, and I don't care what Norway says. But I really don't care about that. What I care about is saving lives. Well, I don't think they're going to push back too much. Look, we have to have it. They have to have this done. They can't protect it. Denmark, they're wonderful people. And I know the leaders are very good people, but they don't even go there. And, you know, because the boat went there 500 years ago and then left, that doesn't give you title to property. So we'll be talking about it with the various people.
Securing the Arctic from Russian threats is important to you. Why are you upset about NATO allies thinking that, you know, more seriously in Greenland by holding military exercises?
Well, that wasn't a military. They sent a few people. And they say they sent them not for me, but to guard against Russia. But, you know, NATO's been warning Denmark for about 20 years now, longer than that, 25 years. They've been warning Denmark about the Russian threat. And it's not only Russia, it's also China. So we'll see what happens. But let's put it this way. It's going to be a very interesting Davos.
Going to be a very interesting Davos. That is what we call a tease. Joining us now on set, national political reporter for the Wall Street Journal, Ken Thomas. Okay, before we get to the Davos of it all, the fact that we have the President of the United States tweeting out or posting out pictures of his screenshots of a conversation with the French president. I mean, again, I always love to be invited to the group chat. I'm just not used to us getting this level of insight into the way that these world leaders are allegedly texting each other. But it is notable the way that Macron is criticizing what Trump is doing in Greenland while also trying to do the ultimate compliment sandwich of saying, I like what you're doing in Syria. We have other things that we can work on. Let's get together and have dinner in Paris soon. It just shows the way that Trump is going to be going directly into this wall of people who are trying to convince him to do anything but what he's doing on Greenland, to get the sense that it's actually going to work.
Yeah, this is a window into the EU strategy here to try to avert this crisis, to try to shift Trump off this position to the best possible extent that they can. Macron is probably the leader among the G7 countries that has the best relationship, the most long-standing relationship with Trump. So I think it's interesting that he was the one to send that message. Now, you know, as you know, in the text, he invites the president to have dinner in Paris, to have a meeting there. The president's not scheduled to go to Paris.
Yeah.
He's going to be leaving for Davos tonight, we expect him back on Thursday. So, this is a window into, the strategy and the attempts by EU leaders to try to make a sense of this problem that they faced.
This otherwise, I think, stunningly nonsensical problem, given the way that the president is going against multiple allies and trying to push this agenda and being quite open about the fact that he's willing to use economic coercion, potentially military coercion. I know he likes to leave that on the table, but the skittishness that it evokes because of how unprecedented a movement like that would be just cannot be underscored enough. And yet, when you talk to White House sources, what is their mindset as they head into the World Economic Forum? I know that this is a White House that's trying to push him back to a message of affordability. Is that really where his head is at? Because he's been awake in the last even few hours, tweeting about everything, but especially and including Greenland.
Yeah, last week he said that he was going to be giving a speech on housing and affordability while he was in Davos. That's not going to get that much attention, given everything that's happening with Greenland. The president said he will be doing a meeting on the sidelines of Davos, to discuss this problem. It's going to dominate his time overseas. But right now,
I feel like every world leader should be screaming about Epstein, since it's by far his biggest, weakest point. Just make an unavoidable amount of noise in American media. By ad space, Trump is doing everything he can to avoid his involvement with Epstein. Lack of strategy here. I don't think we're at that time anymore. I think a lot of liberals seem to believe that we're playing the same game that we've always been playing, where it's like a media fight, where, this idea or that idea is going to make the difference. And that, messaging or this messaging, it's not about messaging anymore. It's really not. It's about whether, wow, thank you. Chat, Vio made me some eggs again. Eggs and toast. Thank you, Vio. It's not about messaging anymore. It's really not. It is, are you going to resist and stand up to Trump? And what do you have to offer? Thank you. You know what I mean? Like, that's the only question. I find this fixation on messaging to be a sign of moral bankruptcy and intellectual bankruptcy. People aren't going like, I don't know about invading Greenland or not. Oh, wait, he's doing it to cover up the Epstein files? Oh, I'm against Greenland being invaded. No, everybody's against it. What we're missing is an actual opposition, meaning not only are we against what Donald Trump's going to do, Trump does it, we will punish him. We will fight back. We will embarrass him. We will destroy him. We will actually do shit. It's not about persuasion anymore. People are persuaded. What we're lacking is an opposition, is fight back. Democrats won't even say abolish ICE, let alone we are going to record every action being taken in Minnesota. And if you violate constitutional rights, when we take power again, we will prosecute you. Democrats won't even say that. They won't even consider impeaching anybody in the Trump administration, let alone, like, there is no actual resistance. That's what people are looking for. I mean, did you watch Gavin Newsom go on Ben Shapiro's podcast and lose? Accept every bit of framing that Ben Shapiro put out and then sit there like a chastised child? If you're in the same room with Ben Shapiro and you get dog walked by him, you should never be allowed to lead a fucking hot dog stand, let alone become president.
Now, I think the problem is that he's very dug in. He rolled out, this proposal of a 10% tariff on the 8 countries involved beginning February 1st. Now, the EU has options that they can utilize as well. There's this EU-US trade deal that they could put the brakes on, perhaps. Yeah. They talk about this bazooka in terms of fighting back against coercion. There are things at their disposal, but they have to be smart about how they push back against the president because they don't want to escalate it.
And I think that is really the careful balancing act that we're watching everyone from Macron to Keir.
To de-escalate, the Europeans must escalate. Donald Trump does not understand appeasement. He's not a rational actor. He's a fascist. The European method is, okay, listen, this is my lunch money. I don't want to give you my lunch money. You have no right to my lunch money. But how about this? I'll give you 50% of my lunch money. That way I can still afford a cheese sandwich. And Donald Trump is like, no, I want all your lunch money. Give me all your lunch money now or else. And they're like, okay, well, what about 75%? So I could buy an apple. And Donald Trump keeps looking at them and going, no, I want all of your lunch money. Until you're willing to put up your dukes and say, no, I ain't giving you my fucking lunch money. And if you ask again, I'm going to punch you in the fucking face. Then it's just going to keep happening. In fact, you've incentivized Donald Trump to ask for more. Next, you're going to be doing his fucking homework.
Starmer try to do, not just even on the issue of Greenland, but also when it comes to the board of peace in regards to Gaza. I mean, there's so many examples of this, even just from the last few days. But while you talk about what's going to dominate both the president's mindset and Davos, it's yes, Greenland, but it's also what's happening here at home in Minnesota, because I want you to stay with us as we just remind folks what's going on there. Several attorneys in Minnesota say thousands of people arrested by ICE have been denied their constitutional right to legal counsel. They say that includes at least one U.S. citizen. 4 attorneys told ABC News they were physically prevented from meeting with clients, calling it a...
King Daddy D-Mac says, if we don't take the power back as soon as possible, it's clear we're cooked. If he gets away with taking Greenland with no major pushback, it's clear he will take Canada next and never give up power and try to become king. Exactly right. Exactly right. If Donald Trump can stand up to NATO and steal Greenland, you think he's not going to try to stand up to the Democrats and take the White House?
Clear violation of 5th and 6th Amendment protections. Another immigration lawyer said ICE agents repeatedly remarked, we don't do attorney visitation. In response, DHS has denied any wrongdoing, saying detainees have access to phones and attorney lists. I want to go right to the ground in Minneapolis. MS Now national reporter Rosa Flores is there for us. Rosa, good morning. You've spoken with local business owners who they say are scared about the possibility.
DHS denying Minnesota detainees legal counsel. This is a violation of the Magna Carta. This isn't even a violation of the Constitution. This is a violation of the rights of medieval citizens.
Of President Trump sending more ICE agents into the city. It comes against that backdrop of what happens once DHS actually takes folks into custody. Talk to us more about what your reporting tells you.
Well, you know, I talked to one of the only
open presents. Thanks for the 100 gifties. What the fuck? I appreciate you. What the fuck?
Business owners, Ali, that's open in what he calls the heart of the Hispanic community. It's a strip of businesses. He says that all of the festivals go down that street. And right now, he's one of the only owners that has an open restaurant. He says that the other owners are either too afraid to open their businesses or they don't have workers because the workers are too afraid. He says at least 10 businesses have closed there. Now, one of the things that I asked him about was his clients, who's actually going to the restaurant. And from being there, I can tell you that it's mostly delivery drivers. People are not going into the restaurant. It's delivery drivers that are delivering to homes. And he says that while he will keep his restaurant open for now, he says that there is a limit to his ability to keep that restaurant open. Take a listen.
What if the president invokes the Insurrection Act and sends troops here?
Sería la gota que derramó el vaso porque pues ya todos en ese caso ya no saldríamos nadie porque ya no.
He says that would be the straw that would break the camel's back. He says that he's seen how even American citizens, protesters that are speaking out have been treated badly by immigration officials or by police.
Ali, and he says that he would close his business if the Insurrection Act is invoked and there are military soldiers in the streets. Now, I want you to see this video because he literally closes the door every time that somebody walks in and out of the restaurant. He says that is the one thing. He has an employee doing it. That's the one thing that helps.
I am a forensic psychologist and I was denied entry on multiple occasions on scheduled evals when working on immigration cases. At one point, we had to schedule an attorney call to somehow interview the person. They didn't produce the inmate. It's insanity.
Helps his employees and his customers feel safe. They literally lock the door every single time that somebody comes in or out. And I want to leave you with one more thing, Ali. This is a city that has welcomed refugees for many, many years. I've been talking to contacts here who say that refugees are shocked by what they see here in Minneapolis, by the tactics that are being used by ICE, because they say it resembles what they fled, the countries that they fled, the authoritarian tactics that they fled, including the militarized police and the fact that you can't trust the justice system.
MS Now national reporter Rosa Flores, live from Minneapolis. Thank you for that great reporting. We appreciate it. So, Ken, I think as we look at this first year of the Trump administration, nothing feels like more of a hallmark policy than their escalated immigration enforcement tactics and the fact that we are currently in this posture in Minneapolis waiting to see what escalation, if any, ultimately comes from this administration. I mean, there's been some reporting that polling and other dynamics are making some in the White House rethink this. Is that what your sources are telling you? Because they've only doubled, tripled, quadrupled down over the course of the last 12 months.
No, there's no indication that they see any reason to back down in Minneapolis. I think they see this as, you know, an important test case, a way of making sure that their ICE, you know, their agenda, their immigration agenda can get through. I think there are a lot of mayors around the country who are looking at what's happening on the ground there and saying, you know, is this something that could happen to our city? You know, right now, I think the key thing to watch is, does the president feel the need to invoke the Insurrection Act? He seemed to back off of it a little bit on Friday afternoon before he left for Florida. But at the same time, there are 1,500 troops that are on standby, we learned. Yeah. And at the same time, Governor Walz is considering, you know, activating National Guard troops. You could have competing troops.
Thank you, dear. It was good.
In Minneapolis.
Schnoz.
Yeah, never the ideal for a situation that is already so tense.
My city refused to take any steps to trespass, arrest, or enforce even basic permit requirements on ICE DHS agents that are even observed to be breaking laws out of concerns for the safety of our officers. The officers agree with what ICE is doing. I remember reading the War on Terror Patriot Act created openings where suspected terrorists did not have some legal rights laid out in the Constitution. This policy has shifted into immigration law. For example, a special hearing where prosecution can meet with an immigration judge without representation of the client to present special evidence of the state, a loophole around constitutional rights / due process. Yes, of course. Asmongold on why he doesn't need to know anything about politics.
You openly admitted you never do research or read articles outside of Twitter. How can you shamelessly tell others to read more? I don't need to understand whatever article you want me to read. All I need to understand is human psychology and incentives. And incentives and human psychology are the deciding factors of how people will behave. I don't need to read your little special book or your Wikipedia article or anything else besides that. None of that stuff matters. What matters...
I mean, by the way, chat, again, this is how fascists always operate. And it is actually pretty expected because, of course, he's fucking stupid. He's subhuman. Like, of course, he doesn't know anything and he just goes by what he believes off of sitting on his skinny fucking ass in his rotten room. Of course he doesn't know anything. Of course he doesn't go outside. Asmongold, come to Los Angeles immediately. Please, I invite you. Come hang out, bro. Did you guys see what happened to that Nazi who went to Minnesota? Did you guys see what happened to that Nazi who went to Minnesota? Someone send the clip.
Fundamentally is... how do people act? How do people think? And how do people respond to incentives? If you can understand that, then nothing else matters. It's pretty...
Yeah, but you don't know that. You don't understand any of that, you dumb fucking rat. Where'd you learn that? World of Warcraft? Oh my God. I mean, chat, listen. As I've said before, somebody like Asmongold, he's basically doing internet keyboard warrior to the max. That's all he's doing. And until he suffers consequences for his actions, he's going to keep acting like he's immune to consequences. Chad, did you know that motorcycles, like motorcycle jackets, like the modern motorcycle jackets are actually pretty well armored? Because obviously when you get thrown off your motorcycle at 60, 70 miles an hour, if you're going to avoid like serious injury, you need to have good solid protection. Very cut resistant, very blunt force trauma resistant. It's not armor, it just protects road rash. Of course you should have an armored motorcycle jacket, and they don't really stick out in the crowd. I mean, this one does, but if you leave the shitty stock foam in, they're pretty meh, but they have better armor you could buy. I mean, yeah, obviously buy the better armor for when you're riding your motorcycles for protection. You don't want to crash your motorcycle and get hurt. I mean, like, one of the worst things that could happen in your motorcycle is when you crash your motorcycle and your knuckles hit the ground. That can really injure your hand. What you want to do is make sure, and then you see you have your cut resistant on the palm right here, and then you have these protectors on your knuckles so that when you crash your motorcycle, you don't get hurt. It's important that you are prepared. Safety first. Motorcycles are dangerous. Better safe than sorry. Exactly. Seriously, a hand injury will change your life. Exactly. You want to protect your hands. Dress for the slide, not the ride. Exactly. And even if you don't have a motorcycle yet, you need to have the gear to ride. Like, if you're getting ready to ride a motorcycle, you want to have the gear before you get the bike, to learn. You don't want to, when you have the least skills, you don't want to have no protection. You also want to make sure you have neck protection. And this is very important, eye protection. Don't underestimate how important eye protection is. Hey, you don't want to get any debris in your eye.
Ground. I mean, you've heard it from not just Rosa communities that are really scared, but also our other colleagues there who have seen right in front of their eyes the tensions between protesters and law enforcement, all as the governor and the mayor say, please stay peaceful. You have a right to protest, but don't give anyone an excuse to make this situation worse.
Okay, I want you to understand something, you dumb fucking liberals. And in fact, I saw someone post about me in Reddit where basically I quote tweeted Hassan saying that Nick Fuentes is trying to become the next Charlie Kirk, and I said I hope he does. I posted I hope he does become the next Charlie Kirk, and agreeing with Hassan, right? And obviously, what does that mean? It means that if Nick Fuentes becomes as prominent as Charlie Kirk was in the conservative movement, more and more people will see how Nazi the Republican Party is. Charlie Kirk was better at doing dog whistles, whereas Nick Fuentes just does bullhorn. So I think it would be good if Asmongold and Nick Fuentes became avatars of the right wing for normies. I think Charlie Kirk was better at it than they are. And somebody was like, oh my God, I think Asmongold tried to say that I was calling for violence or something. Notice how Asmongold calls for all protesters to be put in concentration camps and disappear to CCOT, and that's not violent. But me saying I think that it would be a good thing if the right was represented by him and Nick Fuentes, that's me calling for violence. Now, somebody in the leftover subreddit said, oh, Mike is giving them ammunition. What I want you to understand something is they don't need ammunition from me, you dumb fucking liberal. You dumb liberal moron. They're not going after people on the streets because I made a tweet. You dumb fuck. Stop blaming me and Hassan for the crises of fascism unopposed by liberals. In fact, we need to be doing more to confront ICE, not less. You want this to stop? Donald Trump has to feel like his approval rating is cratering, that they're gonna lose power. And you know what makes them look unpopular? Chaos. When they have lost control of the streets, that's gonna make him unpopular. Because he's not doing it for a good reason. He's doing it to attack innocent people and families. And if you're one of those people saying, oh, shut up, be nice to the fascists, I'm gonna show you something. And I need you to shut the fuck up.
There's something happening here. What it is ain't exactly clear. There's a man with a gun over there, telling me I got to beware. I think it's time we stop. Children, watch that sound. Everybody look something happened.
They are literally disappearing people, and they're also grabbing citizens too. They're kidnapping people off the streets. Shut your fucking mouth. It's not my fault. It's not Hassan's fault. Shut your fucking mouth, you cowardly liberal. And either shut up or join us. Pathetic. Coward. And I've been dealing with this for a while now. Holy shit, this is insane. All right, Chad, I'm going to show you guys exactly what I'm talking about. And I think one of the things that happens is a lot of people who are parasocially attached to Hassan and don't care about politics try to attack all of Hassan's friends. This happens on a regular basis. And oftentimes they're fans of like very small, unsuccessful streamers, and they get mad that other streamers are doing well, and they cause infighting, and it's very fucking weird. And it actually causes a lot of tension in the left-wing spaces, because if I go and I'm trying to say help a candidate, and some of these weird people that are not even from, like, not American, psychotic freaks start messaging you know, candidates or whatever, try to interfere with Hassan and I organizing for people. Like, Kat went on Hassan's stream yesterday and raised, you know, $30,000, $40,000, $50,000. Do you understand that that can make or break a campaign? And so when people are constantly attacking me or Hassan, or they're saying like, oh, they don't like me because I successfully flipped, say, for example, H3's attack of me personally into more success for myself by showing Ethan Klein as a piece of fucking garbage. That's not me baiting Ethan Klein to attack me. That was Ethan Klein attacking my partner and getting her banned for 30 days, you fucking dumb rat. So I've defended my partner. You don't understand that. Yet you go around slandering me like I'm inserting myself into shit that doesn't affect me. Fuck you. And the effect of that was we all became more popular. We all became more, well, most of us became more popular. All right. And we fought back, and it was successful, and he was damaged, and that was the goal. And so here, I would like you guys, you know, it's important that people are told this. And whenever somebody attacks me because of my friendship with Hassan, this is something that you'll see a lot. People who don't watch me ever will say that I hang on to Hassan, or you know, Hassan doesn't even know me and shit like this, which is fucking insane. Because my very first stream on this platform, I collaborated with Hassan. We've been friends my entire time. The entire time I've been on here has been a collaborator and friend of Hassan's. It is batshit crazy for you to try to insert yourself. You don't know us. You're not our friend. You don't know me. You don't know Hassan. You don't know. Now, I keep my distance because I don't like to be all over Hassan, but I enjoy his coverage. I watch it in my own time. I like him as a friend. You're not one of us. You don't know us. And it gets uncomfortable when parasocial freaks insert themselves in between us like we don't know each other. We know each other. I need you to stop it. You're not healthy. You're mentally ill. And when I get threatened by Asmongold, like I am right here, fuck, you don't know what that's like. You've never had Nazis come after you and make death threats against you. I don't complain about it because I can handle it. But I don't need you saying that I'm doing it for clout. I'm not doing it for clout. Fighting Asmongold does not help me, you dumb fuck. It never has. I'm doing it because I am doing it because it's the right thing to do. And when he attacks me, he can't affect me. But if he attacks somebody as a 200 viewer Andy, he can ruin their life.
Kill you.
I made that posted thread. My intent wasn't to put you on blast. I was supporting both of you. It's just that one commenter. Oh, I know. There's these weird commenters who come in and say shit like this. And then when you try to figure out who they are, they have, I guess this is a NATO. I don't know what this is. Like, I don't know what this is here. American flag, American, I don't know, hides all their posts. I don't know. It's a weird, kind of weird. I don't think these type of people should be welcome on these subreddits. Like, if you're there to trash me, Hassan, Frogan, Denims, like, honestly, you shouldn't be welcome. Fuck you. He obviously doesn't deserve to be assassinated, though. That's what you're implying. Come on, man. Take 24 hours off. You're a dumb fuck.
Well, they will, if they are allowed, they will take it.
I'm on the screen. I'm being to one of the largest Nazi creators. I'm on the screen. Who the fuck do you think you are? I just pushed another 100 people to organize anti-ICE watch on Sunday. Who are you? I'm one of DSA's most successful recruiters nationwide. Who are you? Now, I don't say this stuff to beat my chest. I'm not trying to use organizing to brag about myself. I'm just saying that's 1 week in my life. Threatened by Nazis, death threats constantly, organizing a massive anti-ICE meeting, promoted a bunch, I hope a bunch of you went to the trainings last night. I unfortunately couldn't make it. And I'm not somebody who came on the Twitch because I want to be famous. I was already in organizing for a decade before that. Like, what is wrong with you? What the fuck is wrong with you? Again, I don't have any problem fighting Nazis and right-wingers. I do have a problem with people who try to split up the friendships and the collaborations and the support networks that the left needs in order to succeed. And I will tell you right now, I think we should fight back against these people. And I don't think we should do mamby-pamby debates as the only means of fighting back. So if you don't agree with that, eat shit, liberal. What can Asman and their audience do? The reality is I'm going to be attacked by these people. And I'd rather they attack me, a white man who, by the way, I lose a lot of my privilege by being a leftist. This is something that you all need to understand as well, which I think is, everyone needs to understand this. When you become a leftist and a socialist, you no longer keep your privilege. You become a terrorist. You become an enemy of the state, even more so than other marginalized communities. Now, I'm not saying that I'm a victim. I'm not. I am a tremendously privileged guy. That's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying, though, is the idea that, like, oh, you know, you just go in front of the protests, and since you're white, nothing's going to happen to you. That's a sign of somebody who's never done it. And that's what's happening with fascism. They're threatening to invade Canada. They're threatening to invade Greenland. Being white is not a shield anymore. It's, are you on their side or are you against them? So, chatter, whoever posted this thread, you're a king. Good thread. People saying, oh, I can't believe Mike likes Hassan. Of course I do. Of course I fucking do. And he wants us. And by the way, if you agree with Hassan and you think you have something to contribute to the online space, go ahead and make a stream and say that you're a Hassan supporter. I would love for you to experience that. Go out there. God, that just pissed me off so fucking much. God damn, that pissed me off. Do you know that Asmongold has 60% European followers on Twitch? They all LARP as American bag of hogs. His editor is Russian, I think.
I make sure, okay?
Those words are calming for this 2-year-old, but reality is anything but.
Oh, tu mami? Oh, tu mami. Muy pronto vamos a ver a tu mami, ¿sí?
Scarlett is too young to understand why she hasn't seen her mother in 4 days, her father in 3 weeks, both taken.
By the way, Chad, I don't, and I'll be honest with you, you are a lot less resilient than you think for handling harassment. Those of us who are good at it, we make it look easy. I don't think those of you that are not used to it are going to understand what it's like. I am actually completely immune to it at this point. They can't do shit to me. They can try to commit crimes. That's about it.
Because her parents signed this DOPA form, a delegation of parental authority, naming Jessica as the person who would step in if the worst. The form gives Jessica the legal right to take her to the doctor, daycare, or even to school.
We knew this was going to happen. I don't think anybody could have predicted it was going to be this bad.
How often are we seeing children being left alone after federal agents take parents?
Right now, probably daily.
For this toddler,
Tú eres muy fuerte, okay?
safety is in Jessica.
Nothing is going to happen to you, okay? I make sure, okay?
Those words are calming for this 2-year-old, but reality is anything but.
Oh, tu mami? Oh, tu mami. Muy pronto vamos a ver a tu mami, ¿sí?
Scarlett is too young to understand why she hasn't seen her mother in 4 days, her father in 3 weeks, both taken by ICE. Because her parents signed this DOPA form, a delegation of parental authority, naming Jessica as the person who would step in if the worst. The form gives Jessica the legal right to take her to the doctor.
This is the reality that we're facing. I need you guys, especially if you're a European liberal, to shut the fuck up.
We stand again at a threshold of conscience, a place where the nation decide whether it will live the creed it carved into stone or continue to run from the promise it made to the world. For too long, America has stretched out her hand to the weary and the wandering, yet pulled it back when the stranger drew near.
Thank you, Be Generic. You came, the courage came from within, man.
That a nation cannot bless the earth while building walls around its own compassion. Some say close the gates. Some whisper there is not enough room at the table. But I say to you, fear is a poor architect of a house meant for freedom. This land was not shaped by one color or one tongue. It was carved by the swift immigrants, the dreams of refugees, and the blood of the enslaved. Together they built a nation that has not always loved them back. We are told that newcomers are a burden, but history testifies that the immigrant is the seed of renewal, the bold soul who leaves the known for the unknown, and by courage alone, it spans the boundary of what is possible. Let us never forget, nobody chooses to uproot their life for comfort. People cross deserts and oceans because staying means death, spare or silent.
I'm not sure this is an actual speech from Dr. King. I did find that it contains bits and pieces of things he actually said and wrote, like quotes from the letter from Richard, but I can't find this exact transcript anywhere. Interesting. That's so weird that people are doing that now. Are people doing AI shit? Oh, I hate that. I hate that.
Anybody make you think
I really hate
God
that.
chose America as his divine, messianic force to be sort of policeman of the whole world. God has a way of standing before the nations with judgment. Seems that I can hear God to America. You are too arrogant. If you don't change your way, I will rise up and break the backbone of your power. And I'll place it in the hands of a nation that doesn't even know my name. Still and know that I'm God. Don't let anybody make you think.
There is an AI trend of Giannis Varoufakis vids out there, and he was fooled by it. I mean, Christ, that's crazy. I mean, it shouldn't surprise you, right? Freddie Angles, shut the fuck up. Take 24 hours off for being dumb. Legitimately dumb.
Now, a New Jersey family torn apart by ICE is fighting to get their dad back. Adonai Rodriguez was at home watching cartoons with his 6-year-old daughter. But when he stepped out to pick up some food, he got caught in an ICE raid. According to the mother, who was at work at the time, a neighbor found the child walking by herself on the street, crying out for her dad, asking, quote, "Where's Poppy? Where's Poppy?" The mother tells MS Now the father pleaded with ICE agents, telling them his daughter is all alone.
Hey, my daughter's inside. Please, only give me one call. Call her the mother. You know, I'm not resisting no arrest. And I feel the police or the, ICE immigration. No, we don't come for your daughter. And just start laughing in the face. We're not coming for your daughter. We don't care for your daughter.
MS Now's Laura Hayfully joins me now. Laura, what else did she tell you?
Chris, I've been in contact with that family since this happened, and of course, they're heartbroken, they're confused, but especially for their 6-year-old daughter who was left in the street to watch her father be detained by ICE. The mayor of Morristown confirmed to us that during this ICE operation, multiple people were arrested right here outside of a local laundromat, including Adonai Rodriguez, the father of that 6-year-old. We have video from that ICE operation. You can see ICE agents running through the street, working to detain people, using vehicles to box them in order to put them in handcuffs. Following this moment was the arrest of Adonai Rodriguez. He was handcuffed and he was led into a vehicle, again with his 6-year-old daughter, wondering where he was being taken to.
This is the agency that Democrats want to keep funding. Nathan Toit puts it so well. They actually don't want to continue funding it. They want to increase the funding to make sure they have body cams, presumably because they want to jerk off to snuff films. I mean, that's literally the only rationale for increasing funding and saying body camera like it fucking matters. Body cameras get turned off because they're not really body cams. They're selective video recordings. Why do they operate like that? Well, police don't want to be surveilled 24/7, chat. They don't want you to know what they're doing all the time. And when they shot Renee Good, it's on 8 different videos, and everybody could see that his life wasn't in danger. And guess what? Fascists say she deserved it, not because of anything she did, but because of who she was. What are body cameras going to do about that? I think the nature of the problem is the fact that this is actually relatively easy to fix. Look at the way Zohran Mamdani is walking through the New York political scene, accomplishing goal after goal, and he's doing it easily and with finesse. Part of it is because he is a generational political talent. The other is because all the impediments that are before us are being thrown up by the Democratic. They are the group that makes resistance to Trump impossible. And I don't like that to being a fact. I fight against that as a fact, but it is the facts. I love that videos don't play when you click on them. I like that things just break.
Dr. King's policy was that nonviolence...
Is this AI too? Today we honor Dr. Martin Luther King Jr.'s message of hope, justice, and equality. Chat, my video is going super viral on China. Although they're fighting over it. No, I stole the video from Mike. No, I stole the video from Mike. 51.8 million? Wait a minute. That can't be right. Can it? Wait a minute. I'm more famous in China than I am in America now. Millies equal thousands. Oh, okay. 58,000. Okay, so it mistranslated? Okay, why does it say 51.8 million? I was going to say, what the fuck? It's like a Mr. Beast video. How did they fuck that up? Google or, the translations suck on Firefox. What do you want me to say? The Firefox translations are dog shit. Mike, when you try to get a visa for China, show them you're a Billy star. Oh, no. Josie, thank you for the prime. It's by design. It's not a bug or a mistake. The letter M means 1,000 primarily due to its use on the Roman numeral for 1,000 from the Latin word milli, 1,000. God damn it. What the U.S. would be like when China takes over.
Washington, D.C. Renewal zone. Next stop, Washington, D.C.
We're making more AI. How many AI videos are we going to get today? How many AI videos are we getting today? I feel like Taylor Lorenz over here. I'm Chinese. It's 18,000 views. Holy shit, that's a lot. Mods, make a Billy account immediately and go post and say, hi, my name's Mike. You can find me over on the YouTube. Please come in and subscribe. I want to have more Chinese fans than Hassan. He would be so mad. He'd be so mad. Can you imagine how jelly? He'd be the real lemon bro. Mike, you will meet Xi. Hopefully one day.
By now, you've probably seen this in Minneapolis, a woman being dragged from her car while driving through a protest against President Trump's immigration crackdown. She was arrested 2 blocks from where an ICE agent shot and killed Renee. You heard her screaming, "I'm disabled," as agents carried her by her arms and her
Enable auto dubbing on YouTube for simplified Chinese. Good point.
legs from her own car. We know her name, Alia Rahman. And in just a minute, you'll hear from her for the first time in an exclusive interview. Alia says she was never part of the protest that day. She was simply just trying to go to her doctor's appointment. But in a statement, the Homeland Security Department called Rahman a, quote, agitator, adding she, quote, ignored multiple commands by an officer to move her vehicle away from the scene. She was arrested for obstruction. The Minneapolis Police Chief, Brian O'Hara, he watched the video.
Obviously, I don't know why law enforcement officers initially approached the vehicle. It pisses me off to see that. To see men doing that to a woman who's disabled pisses me off. If those cops works for me, they'd have a problem.
With me now, Alia Rahman and her attorney, Alexa Van Brunt. Thank you both for being here. Alia, I want to start with, because this has been viral. People have seen this video over and over again. People have this is what happened to you. It is your life. It is your journey. But the government, they're calling you an agitator. So can you just help me understand? Walk me through what happened in those moments before these agents dragged you from your car.
Thank you for having me, and happy birthday, Dr. King. I'm really happy that you asked this question, right? Because I have been so concerned that folks might be distracted from the real issue at hand by instead debating why I proceeded slowly through a militarized traffic jam full of pedestrians and a cacophony of conflicting instructions. I was on my way to the doctor. I was on a main road that is a direct road from my house to the parking lot. Suddenly there's traffic in the road. There are vehicles blocking it ahead, vehicles that later I understood were ICE vehicles. People around me trying to understand what to do. And I think that you see the rest.
So you weren't, in the beginning of the video, you see the federal agents saying something before you were dragged out. They say that you were given what they call repeated warnings. I just heard you say this cacophony of conflicting commands. Were they saying to you? What did you understand to be happening?
Well, I think I didn't understand what was happening, right? I am a disabled person who has autism, right? That is a big piece of this. But I think even someone who doesn't have the kind of auditory processing challenges I do would not know what to do. The sentence, "Move, I will break your effing window." And then back and forth between move, get out, trying to open my door, more threats of breaking a window, which I don't understand the functional purpose of. And it's not a warning, it's a threat of violence.
It's so they could damage your property and fuck you up and intimidate you and commit violence. And that's fun for them.
It really shouldn't be packaged with an instruction. Yeah, I mean, I'm happy to tell you about what my ears hear in that situation. But in my ears, my autism also comes with an auditory sorting challenge where multiple human voices at like a loud party or on a chaotic street all sound like they're the person talking to me. So that's one reason, you see me looking and trying to identify which lips are talking to me. But of course, that's not possible because ICE officers wear things that cover their mouths and faces except for their eyes, right?
So it is so informative for you to explain what it was personally like for you, for us to have watched the video and now to understand at least a part of what you were experiencing in that, because there is a conflicting report from their vantage point to you were thinking or feeling, and you've done it yourself. But I want to be clear, you say you were not there to protest ICE. You were there on your way to an appointment, and you stopped in the traffic, and I got the conflicting reports and commands. Were you there to protest ICE? Had you ever protested ICE before? So when you went that day and you were detained, as you said, what was that like once you were?
Number one, I experienced a very specific set dehumanization practices during the 6 stages of detention and processing that I counted before I went unconscious and was taken out in an ambulance. Number 2, every one of those stages, ICE agents doing things that indicated they were not aware of what their job was or how to do it. Lots of, where's this? What do we do next? Really? Agents had to, at all 5 stages, agents had to stop, ask someone else what to do, where basic things were. There were local staff who seemed to know some of that thing, but I distinctly heard 2 of them at one point say to each other, we don't want to step on ICE's toes when I was trying to get medical care. And the third is that the practices I experienced with like my own body, ears, and eyes do not make sense to me as an immigration or public safety strategy because they make things less safe. And honestly, I was not separated from a citizen of any other country. I think people believe this is just immigrants in there, and it is not. I was told that if I were a normal human, nothing would be a problem.
They said that to you.
We have now heard from, when I asked for...
Why in Minneapolis and not LA, Chicago, or Boston? Well, first of all, they're still spending the $75 billion the Democrats helped give them. So they have to hire the thugs and the goons. The second reason is that Minnesota went viral for that video that Atrioc helped promote, the made up video about the scams as if they were ongoing and not already prosecuted by law enforcement both at the state and federal level. They had caught the scams and were putting people in prison already. And Atrioc promoted that far-right influencer who's illiterate. Oh, that reminds me, chat. Speaking of Atrioc, remind me in 5 seconds.
Disability accommodations. And I said, did anybody bring my cane with me?
But anyway, yeah. So they're going to go after LA and probably New York next, if I had to guess. Because there's a hell of a lot more immigrants in LA and New York than there are in Minnesota. Most Somalis are U.S. citizens. There's a very small population of illegal immigrants in Minnesota. Minnesota probably has some of the lower levels of illegal immigration of any major U.S. city.
I need that to walk, not stand, but walk, because my balance is bad. They said, there's no canes here. They stood me up in leg irons and said, walk, push my back. Walk, you can do it. Nobody said, maybe we should find something else. There was no medical screening. I was never once asked for my ID, even told I was under arrest, never charged. And when I sat there and somebody finally noticed I was not able to balance, even sitting, and they said, I think there might have been a wheelchair around here the other day, because I kept asking, can you at least get a wheelchair? People said, I don't even know if we have those. That's not the answer to that question. That's never should be happening. And when they put me in the wheelchair, finally, an officer said, wait, you were driving, right? So your legs do work.
What?
I refrained from saying, I refrained from saying, hey, have you ever seen a handicap parking spot, sir? What? But the thing is, right, people are going to say, well, none of that stuff is illegal. It's just me. I have read too many books to think that things are okay when this level of dehumanization is happening, because it means officers are probably trying to get through their day when they have been given orders that are not righteous and they are to hurt people.
Alexa, I have to ask you, and Ali, you have to forgive me, my own sister is mobility impaired, and she drives with the assistance, had to accommodate and adapt her car so many different times to be able to still function and live in the standard that she wants to. I get emotional thinking about it, but my blood is boiling thinking about, can you just describe from the legal perspective of it?
Yeah.
She was detained. The DHS says that she was arrested for obstruction.
Yeah.
Are you aware if she is facing any charges? I have to, for a second, compartmentalize the dehumanization just to get through the question. You have to forgive me. Have you heard that she is facing any charges?
I have not heard, and it would, if she were, they would be completely baseless, because the people who violated laws at that scene were the DHS officers. And in particular, every officer in the way they treated her once they found out she had a disability, because Alia was very upfront about it. She told the officers, I am a woman with a disability. I have autism. She yelled it. You can hear it on the video. And they escalated at that point and then subjected her to a very brutal use of force, pulling her out of the car, slamming the ground, and then carrying her like an animal is the only way to describe it. That violates.
Right-wingers think that if you have a disability, you're subhuman. While at the same time, many of them have intellectual disabilities of their own. That is the reality, is they are the Panthers eating their phone face party. They think, like Asmongold thinks, that he's normal. Asmongold believes that he's normal. Any doctor who went into his home would diagnose him with senile squalor syndrome. He's mentally ill. But he calls people with mental illnesses subhuman himself. And it's like, you're talking about yourself. Executive function disorder, failure, senile squalor syndrome guy. Like, who are you calling subhuman? Who are you calling abnormal? But as long as he feels like it's not going to happen to him, it's okay.
Every police standard and how you are supposed to interact with somebody in a car. And it violates every standard in how you're supposed to interact with somebody with a disability.
Here's an example of ICE holding a child hostage. This is kidnapping in order to try to bait people outside so they could assault them.
Come on down here, sir. Don't touch it.
She boring here.
Don't touch her.
And also she have
if you touch her, you're gonna have problems.
You're
more than welcome to come pick her up. No. Is that your daughter? Look, that's where I am. Daughter, come here so I can see those IDs. Hey, I can give it to your daughter. You can do it right here. No, I can give it to the daughter. You guys, you scare people. That's what you do. See how you have the kids over there? That's what you doing with this country? You put it upside down.
Please, sir. She have autism spectrum. Please, please.
Come on.
Yes.
We can see your ID. You're gonna have to come back. Bring your ID. We'll check you too.
Okay. I'm gonna give you my ID back. Give me my daughter back.
No, you're gonna have to physically come back here.
Okay. That's the way you treat people.
You're such a real man. You know that? You're a real man. Come on down here, sir.
I mean, chat, I gotta be honest with you. That father acted with utmost restraint. I don't know what I would do if I was in that situation. I don't know what I would do. He was way more calm than I would be. Oh yeah, that reminds me. So I was watching some TikTok the other day, and I came across this Pokimane video.
Who has it so it and
I did my best, chat.
Going through an experience where another male streamer was caught publicly having paid for inappropriate AI content of me as well as several other people in an effort to not bring
God damn! That's Gavin Newsom's boy! Atrioc! Gavin Newsom's favorite!
Clear to me that this has only gotten worse, especially because there's a certain platform that is not only allowing these images to distribute it, but literally has a built-in tool that allows people. And when this first happened to me, to be completely honest with you, I would think to myself, oh well, because I was in a male-dominated industry, God forbid a girl want a game, I'm Tory, blah blah. Honestly, some pretty victim-blamey stuff, but now it's clear that it is very much a widespread issue.
By the way, chat, you're not allowed. Okay, I want to explain something. I feel the way that many people do whenever I see someone's rights being violated. But you have to understand that they're looking to censor me. They want to censor me. They want to censor Hassan. And so we try to stay on the side of the line because our platforms are too important to give them away for a momentary feeling of, like, I don't know, catharsis or talking tough about how I would do X, Y, and Z violent thing to ICE or cops or whatever. You're not doing anything. In fact, you're just feeding information into Palantir when you type shit like that into the chat. Okay? I hear you. Whenever I feel frustrated, I just type Peepo Smile and everybody gets it. But if you violate the rules, you're gonna get yourself a nice long timeout or ban. Don't make me do that. It's gotten worse. As shitty as Atrioc is in other ways, he made real rehabilitative strides to make amends and fight against the AI porn epidemic. He still sucks for other reasons, though. He got caught live, dude. What is he gonna do? Double down? Of course he's gonna do what he's doing. It's the only way to save his platform.
People are doing this to people who are fully covered up, wearing hijabs, people who are extremely young, and I am just shocked at the lack we have made. Legislation feels like a freaking snail in comparison to the torpedo that is technology and AI. I'm removing inappropriate content of mine, whereas the cost of creating these is relatively inexpensive and only getting and at least I'm very privileged to have the resource classmates who are making of that and distributing it to others. Appropriate photos, even if the real it pains deal. I hate to always have was your mom, your girlfriend, because I just should be that difficult with women in general, and also because I know there's, but in reality, real human beings. The things that we do online have real life, and sometimes if you were to just run up, rip their clothes off, that would be a form of SA. I feel like in a way this digital version
I agree with her
that we should behavior, and
I will tell you that it's never going to be a thing until we give consequences to the people that do it. I mean, that's really, and AOC is working on writing legislation on this very topic because AOC gets this more than anyone. And I personally think that Elon Musk should be in prison over this. You know what's really wild to me? It's the internet. If you want porn, there's more porn than you could ever consume. If never another porn video was never made again, there's more porn than you could ever possibly consume already available online. Why the fuck? Like, this is what I don't think I can ever really forgive Atrioc for. What the fuck? Why are you taking people you know and then creating AI porn of them and paying for that? That's like being a peeping Tom. That's like going to your friend's house and putting a camera in the toilet or something. It's not kind of creepy. It's extremely disgusting. You know, it's one thing to like maybe you know someone and they start an OnlyFans and you go and buy the OnlyFans. That's fucking creepy. That's creepy. But, you know, the person put those images out there and you looked at them. So I would find that creepy and weird to do, but I don't think it's That would be something that you would need to apologize for, and people would make fun of you for life. Going and making AI porn of your friends that did not want that is fucking insane. Wait, that's supporting an artist. I mean, I guess I could understand you saying that. I mean, I think if you know someone personally in a non-sexual way and then you kind of pursue their sexual output, it creates a kind of gray area for me where I guess if they put it out there, it is what it is, but it would still like, it's still kind of odd. Am I being puritanical? I'm not trying to be. I just think it is kind of weird. Like if I know someone in a non-sexual fashion and they create sexual content and then I go and seek it out, it feels a little off to me. But I'm not saying it's a crime or anything, but it's just like kind of like a little weird. It feels a little weird. Anyway, I don't want to get distracted by it. I don't want to get distracted by that because the more important point is making AI of people you know, who you know are not sexual content creators. You know, Cutie Cinderella or Pokimane. That's fucking rapey to me. It's fucking weird. It's beyond the pale. It's an invasion. And it's just like, ugh.
Oh, American tourists are so bad. European tourists are about 12.2 times worse.
Okay, that's not true. I mean, all tourists are annoying. But have you seen an American tourist? Making it of sex content creators is digital scabbing. Oh, I agree. I don't think you should make AI content of anybody without their consent. Even if it's just them standing around with in a fucking polo shirt. I don't think you should make AI content of anyone. To make that AI content, you have to steal their shit to make it. You know, if you drew like fan art of someone, it would at least come from your creative expression, right? It's still kind of like, you know, if you drew a picture of them fucking, that would be incredibly fucking weird. What about Sydney Sweeney? You shouldn't make AI porn of Sydney Sweeney. No. I've heard Chinese tourists are the worst. That's just xenophobic racism. I don't know why people like AI so much. Everyone I know loves AI. It's because you can make it do things with very little effort. Like I think of AI as like, it's like having a college intern. So anything that you know you would want a college intern to do, you can tell them to do it and you'll get something that you can then look at. It's not exactly going to be like expertise that you can rely on. I think most people tend to use it as a search engine. And then there's like specialty things that it's really good at that I'm not really familiar with because I don't program. It's like having a college intern. You can make it do little things with very little. That's you put the sentences out of order. You put the sentences out of order. I didn't put the sentences in that order. You don't put quotes when you reorder sentences. That's not a quote. It's a whole damn new idea. AI hype meets reality as majority of CEOs report no financial returns. No shit. That's actually crazy. All right, Donald Trump apparently went live and I missed it. Oh, here it is.
Ed Sciences, EMD, military in terms of ending wars, in terms of completing wars, to be honest with you. Have accomplished. As you know, this is the anniversary, first anniversary, January 20th, and it's an amazing period of time. We have a book that I'm not going to read to you, but these are
Can you believe we're 1/4 through the Trump presidency? 25% down.
Accomplishments, what we've produced, all page after page after individual things. I could stand here and read it for a week and we wouldn't be finished, but we've done more than any other administration has done by far in terms of military, in terms of ending wars, in terms of completing wars. Nobody's really seen very much like it. I think it's appropriate that because Minnesota is so much in the fray, and I say to my people all the time, and they're so busy doing other things, they don't say it like they should, apprehending murderers and drug dealers and a lot of bad people. These are just some of the more recent ones that we have, and I can show you some of the people, many of them murderers. These are all out of Minnesota, just Minnesota. I say, why don't you talk about that? Because people don't know. Do you want to live with these people? International murder. These are people that are they're apprehended and either put in jails in their country from where they came, and the countries respect us, and so they actually put them there. In the old days, they didn't respect our country. Biden wouldn't do this because he let them all in. You know, if you didn't have open border policies of Biden, none of this, all of the things that all of the time that we spend talking about Minnesota and everything else, most of them are coming from out of the country and caused by a previous administration. Look at this, one after one. These are rough
Imagine grabbing hundreds of thousands of people indiscriminately off the street and having a pile of papers this thin for $75 billion. What is that, 25? What a pathetic waste.
These are all criminal, illegal aliens that,
you're back, Jeff.
In many cases, they're murderers, they're drug lords, drug dealers, they're the mentally insane. There's some of them who are brutal killers, they're mentally insane. They're killers, but they're insane. These are just in Minnesota. California, it's worse. In other states, it's worse. Now, Minnesota, the crime is incredible. The financial crimes are incredible. And the problem is because of the agitators and insurrectionists, whatever you want, troublemakers, but they're paid agitators and insurrectionists. Nobody talks about the fact that $19 billion at a minimum is missing in Minnesota, given to a large degree by Somalians. They've taken it. Somalians, can you imagine? And they don't do it. A lot of very low IQ people, they don't do it. Other people work it out, and they get them money, and they go out and buy Mercedes-Benzes, and they come from here, they have no money. They never had money. They never had a life. They never had a government. They never had a country, because there's basically no country. Somalia is not even a country. They don't have anything that resembles a country. And if it is a country, it's considered just about the worst in the world. They come here and they become rich and they don't have a job. I was told that Ilhan Omar is worth $30 million. She never had a job. She's a crooked congressman. So here is another one. And I have, oh, by the way, we just took out, these are all what ICE is doing. And it's a dangerous job. These are rough people. Weapons. This one here is very bad. I'm through this because I think we have plenty of time. I'm going to a beautiful place in Switzerland where we'll be, I'm sure I'm very happily awaited for. In Switzerland, they don't know about this. They don't have this problem. They have other problems, but they don't have this problem. Killed somebody. And these are rough people. These are not, this was all allowed into our country through open borders. These dumbest policies, you know, men and women's sports is dumb. But to me, having an open border for the world to come in, drug dealers and prisoners. Venezuela, as an example, opened their prisons into the United States. That's why one of the reasons I felt so strongly against Venezuela. Now I'm loving Venezuela. They've been working with us so well. It's been so nice. And an unbelievably nice woman also did a very incredible thing, as you know, a few days ago. So we're talking to her, and maybe we can get her involved in some way. I'd love to be able to do that. Maria, maybe we can do that. But we're dealing with the people and the president and all of the people in Venezuela, and we've been...
I mean, I think the main thing about Donald Trump in general is every single word he says is a fucking lie. So what even is the point? Can you Americans please set this cut to CCOT? Are you serious? CCOT was set up by our puppets. You have to understand that conservatives everywhere are traitors. They love Trump. They love big daddies. That's what it really is. They are suppressed guys who have certain tendencies, and they are sadomasochistic. They like dominance. Here's a poll of Canadians. If Canada were ever to face a situation in which the United States used military force against Canadian territory, what do you believe should be Canada's response? 59% of Canadians say defend themselves militarily. 24% say avoid military confrontation and make concessions to prevent further harm. And 17% say I don't know or no response. Among NDP voters, 78% support military resistance. Among Liberal voters, 73% support military resistance. Under Bloc Québécois, 46% support military resistance. But among conservative voters, a large plurality want to do appeasement. Cuck conservatives. Treason. Rexa is in the green majority there. Yeah, I don't see any greens, but yeah, I'd love to see if there was any green voters in the poll. But yeah, I agree. You should want to fight the Americans.
Doing great. The oil companies are getting ready to make massive investments there. They have more oil than even Saudi Arabia. There you go. These are real. These are
driving under the influence. They're bragging about catching a guy who had a DUI. That's it. Your fucking Secretary of War has like 2. That's all you have? I thought there was going to be at least 20 child molesters.
This is all Minnesota, every one of them. This is one state.
Domestic violence. A That's like 40% of cops.
Out of many. And these people are, let's see, yeah, these are all, so far, people that came from outside of the country. They were allowed in by Sleepy Joe Biden.
Okay. I'm not saying that domestic violence is okay. I'm not saying that DUIs are okay. I'm not saying that, but like, this is the worst of the worst. 22% of individuals will be assaulted by a partner at least once in their lifetime. I mean, it's probably one of the most common crimes. Is that good? No, that's fucking terrible. But this is supposed to be the worst of the worst. And I do think that if somebody is a domestic abuser and they're not a citizen, they should be removed from this country. I don't think that's an unreasonable thing to require, that people not be beating people if they're going to be a guest in another country. They're rounding up grandmas and dads.
Crooked Joe Biden, whichever you like. You can call him whatever you like. They're both right. He's sleepy and he's crooked. He was the worst president we've ever had. And we've had some bad ones, too. I can tell you, all you have to do is look at trade.
Larceny? Larceny is something as small as stealing a candy bar. When I was a child, I stole a candy bar or two, or a pack of cigarettes or two. Back in the day, chat, you didn't have to be 18 to buy cigarettes when I was growing up. So cigarettes would oftentimes be in like they'd have like stands in the front, like next to the candy. You could get cigarettes out of a vending machine. Oh, those vending machines are everywhere. I think now they tend to be in bars. Fuck, some diners literally would have mini cigarette vending machines at the table. Now that was the shit right then.
You're not getting bored with this, right? But these are people that you have to see. Strong arm rape, aggravated assault with a weapon, and many other.
Wait. Who is that? Who is that baddie?
You're not getting bored with it. I hope you don't. But these are people that
Smuggling
you have to
aliens.
See. Strong arm rape, aggravated assault with a weapon, and many other.
Cracker Barrel used to be smoking only. I do remember sitting in the smoking section as a kid. That explains my... No, I'm kidding.
Gang member, known as one of the toughest people around.
They found one murderer. They found one.
These are tough people. So this is what the people are trying to protect. All ICE wants to do is get them out of our country. Bring them to prisons and jails and mental institutions from where they came. That's all they want to do. They're patriots, and they have to be abused by guys like Don Lemon, who's a loser, lightweight. I saw him the way he walked in that church. It was terrible. I have such respect for that pastor. He was so calm. He was so nice. He was just accosted. What they did in that church was horrible yesterday. Look at it. 24 convictions. 24 times convicted. They're not charges. These are convictions. So he comes from outside the country. Do you think he's going to be good here? Convicted 24 times. He's going to be good here, right? It doesn't work that way. He's a man murderer. One of many. One of many. All they want to do is get him out. They want to take him out of our country. And we're met with paid agitators and insurrectionists, troublemakers. They're paid. You know, when the woman was shot, and I felt terribly about that. And I understand both sides of it. But when she was shot, there was another woman that was screaming shame, 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 shame. So loud. A professional opera singer. She was so loud and so professional. She wasn't a woman that was hurt. Oh, my heart's injured. She was a professional. She's shame, shame. She's screaming shame, shame. I said, that's not a normal person. That's a professional. These are professional agitators and professional people that want to see our country do badly. But that's not happening because we have the hottest country anywhere in the world, despite this stuff. All top of the line. They're not going to be good. They're not going to be well behaved here. I could do thousands. We had over 3,000 in the last fairly short while. Just in Minnesota. What's the number, Carol? 10,000. 10,000 criminals. And these are serious criminals. Now, how can a place with 10,000 criminals, how can you have a state? And yet they're fighting us. I like that guy. He keeps nodding to me. You agree with me, I guess. I like him. I don't know who he is, but I like him. He keeps nodding. He says, you're right. He's obviously a little on the right side, maybe. These are rough ones. So we just took this off a stack. We have many stacks like this. Like, I could go 30 times what I'm showing you now.
Wait, Trump has a problem with molesters? I didn't realize that Donald Trump had a problem with molesters because he keeps covering up the Epstein files. Okay, this is so fucking boring, chat. Can we skip ahead to where he actually takes questions or does anything? Okay, fuck me.
Worst of the group. They have murderers. That it's hair fell off. That was a nasty. I think somebody did that.
Why are there only sycophants in the White House press room now? This is legitimately one of the thing about like the communists in China is that, like them or hate them, they are dignified. You know, maybe they're excessively stern or aloof. You know what I mean? But God, at least they've got some fucking dignity. America, it's just a clown show. And honestly, I know clowns. I know some talented clowns. And The vibes at a clown show are a hell of a lot better than watching this shit.
I think it was him. It was my man.
$95 an ounce silver. Shit. That's insane. Who wants to go silver prospecting?
How were you? You didn't do it. I know you did. I know you didn't.
Should have bought it 50.
Here's the book. These are all things we have. I'm going to read a few of the samples, but look at this. These are all, each line is something. Nobody did that before. And it's big stuff, too. Look, we have the hottest country in the world. So I will read you a few. We ended by...
Chad, look at this. Holy US dollar to euro. Maybe I should buy some euros, huh? I don't think the dollar is going to get any stronger from here against the euro, right? We've got a ways to go, right? God, remember when $1 got you more than €1? I was in Europe at the time. I was in Austria. I was like, I should really buy some euros while they're undervalued. God damn. The US dollar is it's lost what? Over 10% of its value against the euro in 1 year. How about against the pound? What currency should we get? Donald Trump's been in office for 1 year, so you could just see that all our currencies are how is the yen doing? Okay, so the yen is devaluing. Oh my god. The fascists in Japan are actually running the country worse than Trump is running America. The Canadian dollar is getting stronger. That's how you know things are bad. This is one of the weakest times in history of the Canadian dollar. You guys are toast. The Aussies have made some progress. And this is before Europe has dumped US assets. I really need to buy euros immediately, chat. I need to get some euros immediately. Oh no. Stock market rout picks up steam with the Dow down 800 points and the S&P 500 on pace for worst drop. Danish pension fund to sell 100 million in treasury, citing poor U.S. government finances. This is Sell America. There's no fucking... He's gonna taco Trump, right? Like, there's no way he's gonna stand up. There's no fucking way he's gonna stand up, right? I mean, the U.S. interest rates are going up. We're gonna get a fucking stagflation, aren't we? Can you short the dollar? Yes. To short the dollar, there are two ways to short the dollar. Actually, you know what? The easiest way to short the dollar is to take your dollars and buy some other currency. Now you can buy a basket of other currencies to reduce the risk. Wow. We're closing in on 5% for the 30-year. Well, mortgage rates are going back up. This is Sell America. US dollar, treasury prices tumble, and gold spikes as globe flees US assets. Fuck! The Sell America trade is in full swing Tuesday morning. President Donald Trump's latest threats around Greenland push global investors to shift exposure away from US-centric investments. The US dollar index headed for its biggest decline since April. U.S. bond prices tumbled, sending yields spiking. That means interest rates are going up because people are selling their treasury bonds because they don't think the American economy is a good bet. The U.S. dollar index. Oh, boy. Uh-oh. Holy scheisse. Holy fuck. God damn. This is the lowest it's been in 5 years, going back to 2022. Precious metals, gold and silver marched to fresh highs. Gold, which has long been viewed as a safe haven investment during periods of geopolitical turmoil, was on track for its biggest one-day gain since October. Costco was selling silver and gold bars in the past. If you bought those, you fucking killed. Europe may begin selling U.S. assets in response to a new conflict with the U.S., a move that could trigger a dollar collapse per Bloomberg. I need to go buy some euros. I'm going to buy some euros. He's molesting the money, chat.
Okay, we want to kick things off this hour with Bridgewater's founder, Ray Dalio, author of multiple books, the latest of which is How Countries Go Broke. We've been having this conversation here at Davos now for many, many years. It's great to have you here. I want to actually just launch into the same conversation we were having basically during the commercial break, which is you've been talking for a long time about a breakdown in the world, a breakdown in societies. Joe had asked you, are we there yet? And you said, yeah, we're here. It's happening.
Let's step back from the sensational and be clear about what I mean. The monetary order is breaking down. Okay. What I mean by the monetary order is that fiat currencies and debt as a storehold of wealth is not being held by central banks in the same way, and that there was a change. The biggest market to move last year was the gold market, far better than the tech markets and so on. And the U.S. markets underperformed foreign markets because of the fact you could see it in the numbers of the central banks and so on. So let's just look at the fact that on the other side of trade deficits and trade wars, there are capital and capital wars. And so as we're looking at that, and you reported what the stock market and so on, but you didn't report that the gold market is also up 3.
We did say that earlier this morning.
Okay.
It's up to
But
record
I'm
levels
saying
again, and silver.
Is you look at what is happening and why it's happening and who's buying it. So let's just take a moment on that capital war issue, okay? We know that both the holders of U.S. dollar denominated, which is money, and those who need it, the United States, are worried about each other, right? So if you have other countries who are holding it and they're worried about each other and we're producing a lot of it, that's a big issue, right? So you have to explain what is going on, fiat currencies, generally speaking. And now if you take the conflicts, you can't ignore the possibility that capital wars, in other words, maybe there's not the same inclination to buy U.S. debt and so on. We at least need to talk about those possibilities and find out who is buying and selling what that is behind these market movements.
And who do you think is behind it?
Well, it's known. It's very clear. You're seeing both the central banks. I can take you down to the specific central banks and what they're doing. Okay, they are because they're. What is money? What was
We're
money?
increasingly buying our own money. That's the lesson of all this.
And the
debt.
other countries' central banks and sovereign wealth funds and others are buying gold, are buying these assets as a diversifier. Think of it, gold is not a metal to speculate on. It's the second largest reserve currency. It has been the reserve currency, okay? So there's a money, and we're talking about, it's common conversation about what is money. Is it Bitcoin? Is it digital? How does it work, right? So we need to talk about the value of money.
But are there forces at play where this is just predestined to happen, given sort of the way you look at cycles? Or do you say there are things that the administration's doing or that others are doing that are creating this moment, whether it be tariffs? We just had Sergio Armati from UBS on. He said, you can do a lot of things, but at some point there is a tipping point. You can't do too many, and maybe we're there.
There are circumstances that have happened repeatedly that are analogous in history that you can look to. When you have a certain amount of debt, okay, and that means others are holding it as debt assets, such as bonds, and you have to sell a lot more, there's a supply-demand issue, okay? Also, when they're holding that, they have to believe in that in terms of the supply-demand. And when you have conflicts, international geopolitical conflicts, even allies do not want to hold each other's debt. They prefer to go to a hard currency. This is logical, and it's factual, and it's repeated throughout history.
So what would Ray Dalio do with his money right now?
Well, I have had, let me answer it this way. If you don't have any views on markets, and you say, what should be my strategic asset allocation mix, you would have a diversified portfolio of certain assets that would diversify each other. And then the question is, what would gold play? When you ask me what gold, it would represent between 5 and 15% of a normal portfolio, because it does very well when the other assets don't do well. It's an effective diversifier. So if you had no views of the markets, that's what you would have. And central banks would have a higher percentage than they currently have, okay? So I would start with that view. Now, do I have, then you make tactical tilts from that. Right. Okay? Now, in my tactical tilts, I have been clear for quite a while. that I would tilt away from bonds and bonds, and I would be tilting toward gold and have a greater than normal amount of that. I'm also believe that we're in a...
despite the run-up already, meaning you think it's still got...
You always keep, what is my amount that I'm going to keep? Okay? So don't pay so much attention. If I look at the run-up and I take what are the positions held by the entities that should hold what positions, they're still short of gold. Okay? So, but still, I'm not saying that it's what amount should I hold. Don't be overly active, and I don't think most people should be overly active, but do they hold the right amount to diversify? And the other part of the answer to the question is that I believe that we are in a wonderful technological revolution in which there's going to be new tech creating great disruptions, and not so much from there are the hyperscalers and so on, but there's the impact of those on companies that are going to use that and so on. So I want a part of my portfolio to be in those so I'm kind of in a mixture of new tech and diversified with an element of gold. That's where my biases are. I'm not, forget my conclusion. Know what neutral is, what you know, if you are a China, a Japan, Europe, okay, what do you do with your portfolio? What do you have? This is basic.
I'm joined by U.S. Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent. It's a
Dow Jones Industrial Average is now down 888 points today, which, you know, not that big of a drop because we've had a pretty record run up over the last year. There doesn't seem like Donald Trump is backing down from Denmark. Oil is up. Natural gas is up big. What is natural gas up 25% for? Huh? Natural gas prices soar as cold snap blasts across the United States. Greenland's freshwater reserves are seen as frozen capital as water becomes a national security issue. If there's one country in the entire world that is not in danger of losing fresh water, it's the US. I mean, it's like only about 3% of the world's water is fresh water, with much of it locked up in glaciers and ice caps, primarily in Antarctica and Greenland. I'm sorry for getting quiet, Chad. I'm just taking it in. I'm taking it in. This is just crazy. Like, this is unbelievable. You could have had silver for $31 an ounce back when Trump was sworn in. Now it's $94. I've never seen anything like it. Going back to the 80s. There's never been anything like this. I mean, this is unbelievable. It makes me want to get rid of any dollars that I have. That's how, and I can feel that kind of panic. It's not a good time to like make a decision. Conservatives being like, you need to get rid of your dollars in favor of gold because those damn liberals are going to collapse the economy. And then they elect Donald Trump and he collapsed the economy, thereby making them right because he's a fucking moron, is incredible. Bitcoin isn't seeing any growth though. People are not buying they're not buying their Bitty coins for some reason, chat. Bitcoin has not done well under Trump. Crypto is not up. Although XRP did make a big run, didn't it? Yeah, it had that big spike. But I guess it's sold off. This is how it works. Like during the pandemic, cash goes first to precious metals, then what it slows, it gets into crypto, then into cash, rinse and repeat. I don't know about that, man. There's not been a run like this in precious metals. Copper's down? Interesting. I mean, copper has had quite a run up this year. Not quite as much as the other metals. The thing is, typically where you find copper, you're going to find some silver. A lot of the main ores of copper also have silver in them. Not all, but many. How's platinum doing? Woo. Wow. Well, we'll see if this here's my thoughts on this, chat. Ultimately, I don't like recessions. Like most socialists, I fucking despise recessions because the people that suffer the most are working class people. But on the other hand, it's good to see consequences for imperialism. And I have to say that I'm worried for you because with Donald Trump in office, who fucking knows what ridiculous bullshit he's going to do? A lot of this has to be Taco Trump, right? Like they're going to see these stock market And everybody's going to pick up the phone to Trump and say, can you shut the fuck up about Greenland? Can you shut the fuck up about Greenland? You're spooking the Europeans. You're spooking the Canadians. And they are not weak. They choose to be weak. That was the deal. The Europeans don't act independently of the United States, and they act together. And that is a ultimate power block. They'll go along with the U.S., whatever the U.S. is doing, and they don't have to spend as much money on their military. That was the deal. Now the United States is directly attacking European independence, European territorial integrity, the European economy. So the U.S. is reneging on the deal. And if the Europeans find their strength, they are an effective check on the United States. Still watching Trump live and it's really, really bad? Okay, hold on. Let's go back.
Bad guy. And people that are very China-oriented and foreign car-oriented and foreign business-oriented, but in particular, they're suing to get rid of tariffs because they don't want tariffs, like Coke. Coke has businesses outside of the United States. If you have them outside, you don't want tariffs. But because of tariffs, they treat us well. Without tariffs, they would treat us, as you saw, for many years. They respect us more now than they ever have respected us, by a lot. And revoked the California emissions waiver to stop San Francisco communists from regulating the automobile industry and destroying automobiles and the industry in the nation. I was with Bill Ford of Ford Motors. I was with all the people at General Motors the other day, and they are making more money and building more cars than they are doing so good. All because of tariffs and what I've done. And they're building their plants all in the United States. Reopened Anwar for drilling. That's a big deal. Launched a massive Alaskan pipeline project to export natural gas to Asia. We made a deal with South Korea and with Japan that
we've got to build our military to fight China to protect our trade routes with China.
Gives us money, the likes of which nobody's ever seen before. Signed executive orders to end Biden's war on coal and put, I say, clean, beautiful coal. I never say the word coal. It has to be preceded by the words beautiful coal. And put miners back to work. The miners love Trump. I think I got 100% of them. We banned transgenders from the military. We don't want trans. Ordered reinstatement of patriots expelled from our military with full back pay. We had some people that were terminated and they're coming back into our military. Fired the woke board.
All right, chat. That's going to be it for me today. I can't listen to this stupid fuck. I'm sorry for getting quiet there at the end. I'm in shock. That I specifically flagged the silver trade and said, hey, you know, silver being this high is a really bad sign. And then it doubled from there. It doubled from there. Back in November when I called it, I was like, wow, silver is expensive. This is a bad sign. And it doubled since then. All right, everybody, stay safe out there. Solidarity forever, my friends. Here's all the links. Make sure you follow me on the YouTube. We have YouTube videos now, chat, and they're going viral in China. The right about the kill line is going viral in China. I've got 24,000 views, and half of them are from China. So make sure you get in there, like, comment, and subscribe. Chinese click farms? No. In fact, Sting Tomo, I might have to time you out for 24 hours for a stupid joke. And we hit 20,000 subscribers. Let's fucking go. We're getting our YouTube game in order, chat. Free Palestine. I'll see you tomorrow. Okay, Theo isn't there. Everybody chat.